Chapter 41, Sick. Arthur knows what is going on, he is losing lifespan the more he uses magic. This world's magic works in a weird manner, especially the higher level of spells. He has overused his magic repeatedly during the rebellion, just so he can give himself a strategic advantage. But that has cost him now. At this rate, he can see that his body will give up before cannon time even comes around. This sucks. Ponders Arthur, he had built quite the reputation with this body of his, so he planned to use it. But that is also where a lot of his problems come. None of his children are even relatively famous. They have been in no battle and no tourneys. I will need to keep this body of mine up to shape and stop using magic altogether for some time. Hopefully, this way I can at least leave a legendary legacy for when I start new. I will have all of the resources. He wasn't willing to change bodies yet, but he will do so in the future. Preferably after the ice zombies are dead. Arthur then gets up, looks around his office, and then picks up one of the swords that he had on him. Fwish. Fwish. He swings the sword a couple of times, his form being perfect. Though he might be no Baristan Selmy, he is an accomplished sword user in his own right. But not even 10 seconds later he drops the sword on the ground. Clang. Sweat drips down Arthur's face and he can feel his muscles painfully rip themselves apart. Cough. He kneels down and spits out a mouthful of blood. Damn, it's even worse than I thought. Contemplates Arthur. It seems like my fighting days are over now. Though he is saddened by the condition of his body, he doesn't dwell on it too long. There is no use crying over spilled milk. Still, the impairment of his body did sadden him a little. But at the same time, he is a little annoyed, as he will have to keep up appearances. Davos was unsure why he was called by Lord Arthur as he stepped into his office. But as he did so, he immediately noticed something that stuck out. Arthur, who should be in the prime of his life, has sunken cheeks, black patches around his eyes that seem to have sunken in his skull. His skin was pale and his breathing heavy. Davos could clearly see that his his friend wasn't well. His sickness had finally caught up to him. The gods truly aren't fair. Thinks Davos as he looks at the man who used to have such ambition in his eyes as if they were on fire. But now, the eyes were hollow, as if a mist was over them. He can see Arthur squint his eyes as he looks at him. Ah, Davos, welcome. Greets Arthur, having a smile on his thin face that almost seemed like a grimace. His vision seems to be getting worse too. Thinks Davos with a heavy heart. I can tell by the way that he squinted as he looked at me. But to him, that isn't important at all, as he greets Arthur all the same. Lord, it seems like, you don't seem good. Ha 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 ha. Arthur laughs as he hears Davos say that, surprising the man. Ha, no one else except you could say it to my face. I know how I look, I am not blind. I am dying. So, how long do you have? Asks Davos with a heavy sigh. He can guess why Arthur called him. Not long. Says Arthur, the smile on his face diminishing slightly as he says that. My healer says that I will be dead within the year. But I will try to push that as much as I can. After all, I will have healers and maesters looking after me all the time. Though I won't be able to fight in battles any longer. Davos looks down at this. Trying to hide the sad look on his face from Arthur. He couldn't bring himself to say anything, being too afraid of saying something that he would regret. I want you to lead my armies in any future battle. Says Arthur suddenly. Lord, I don't think the other lords would like someone like me leading them. Says Davos worriedly, he has seen how the people act around him. They don't want someone like him who used to be an illiterate gutter trash leading them. Arthur has a nonchalant look on his face as he hears that. Who cares what they think? If they have a problem with it, then they could try and talk with me about it. I don't think they would walk out of the meeting, Lord. Says Davos jokingly, implying that Arthur would kill them if they dared to defy his orders, and he knows that every joke does have some truth to it. Anyway. Davos. Says Arthur seriously, the smile on his face now nowhere to be seen. Take care of my children when I die, okay? Especially Oliver. I know that he might seem just like a musclehead and thinks that training his body will help him become a lord. But I know that he is smarter than he look or other people to see. Oliver, smart. Ponders Davos. Having met Oliver countless times already, the silver-haired kid having the same appearance as his father, except for the hair. But in the end, he still trusts Arthur to make the right decision on who his successor will be. So like this, 5 years pass, many things change. Well, the realm kept mostly quiet, but Arthur did not. Almost as if by a miracle, he was able to outlive his doctor's predictions. It even seemed like the Lord of Carclaw Point was getting healthier. Sadly, he was still sick, only getting worse. But for his lands, it was a whole different story. People were getting richer and richer, of course as they did so, their quality of living was raised. Arthur of course kept things in balance, he doesn't want the citizens to get too rich or get any strange ideas. Also, the money was flowing around and he was getting almost everyone's money. As Arthur was the leader, behind the scenes, of a theatre group. Many people had moved to Carclaw Point, from King's Landing of course most of the refugees came. So he just used them as cheaper labor. He used every resource that he had available to him, to finally make his lands something to revere at. Chapter 42, The Start of the Greyjoy Rebellion. Time passes like that for me, years go by and more than 6 years after Robert's rebellion, another rebellion comes by. In year 289, the Greyjoy Rebellion came about. I look at the letter in front of me and smile. Robert has called on me to go and fight for him. I get up from my chair and even then I wince slightly. Yep, not doing any fighting now. That crazy use of magic during my earlier life has left me **ked, I thought that the effects weren't bad because I couldn't feel them. But now, it is completely different. I feel like a man twice my age, instead of a middle-aged man I feel like I am in my 90s. This is bad, real bad, now I can barely hold a sword in my hand. My body keeps breaking down, I haven't used magic since the last rebellion. But I am still suffering such huge consequences, I underestimated the magic of this world and its cost. King sucks. Still, I just take a strength potion from under the table and drink it. Immediately I feel full of energy, so I get up and pick up my sword. Do a couple of slashes in the air and I can hear the wind being cut, my body moves exquisitely altogether. This is my perfected strength potion, it doesn't absorb lifespan, but it sure as hell absorbs my vitality. So my wounds will heal slower now, but it doesn't matter, this will last me for a whole month and I don't plan to get injured during this war. I am not ready to pass into the body of my *TTY children, all of them are dumb as rocks. And only one of them has a strong enough body that will be able to excel once I take it over. Oliver, my son which is now almost in his 20s, that will be the perfect cover-up for me. I have left everything in place and he will inherit everything I own after my death, Davos will also assist him. But that son of mine is also known as a little bit of a musclehead, so I will have to isolate him a little bit for when I take over no one would notice the personality change. So I can't possess him yet, everything must be perfect. I have seen enough *TTY movies to know how bad people who try to possess the bodies of their descendants end up. I can't have that, no one must know anything, because that is the power of this thing. If someone knows about it, I am *ked, there are bound to be ways to counter it and I don't want that to get out at all. It doesn't take long for Arthur to get used to his body once more, and with the overall better body he went outside to encourage his men. Though he was just another Lorne in the many, he had more soldiers than most. His army consisted of 50,000 soldiers and 2,000 professionally trained personal guards. He goes to the wall of his castle and looks at the great city of London and the endless ships on the horizon. He was confident that he could defeat the Greyjoys by himself. Even though he wouldn't say that with 100% due to the Greyjoy being very good sailors. He is still confident that he can overcome quality with sheer quantity. I need to kill Euron Greyjoy, reasoned Arthur. He is one of the great unknown in the game, if he is the TV show version then I don't give a *k about that weakling. But being the book version, that can't be allowed to happen. People of Carclaw, calls out Arthur, a confident smile on his face as he dons a shiny armor with a symbol of his house on the chest. He will get rid of these shiny armors that say come and kill me because I am the commander, but he will still play the part in front of his people. He has after all another 2,000 soldiers that are qualified as his personal guards. All of them protect his family and personal assets. They have been conditioned strictly by Arthur personally, and he even used a part of the Unsullied training on them to make them obedient. He never went easy on them, that is for sure. Other people's lives are not important at all when compared to their own. Today is the day that the squid dared to come to the earth and I will give us victory at all costs. Arthur's voice booms through the city. We will get the victory at all costs. Victory no matter what. Victory despite terror. Victory for however long and hard the road should be, for without victory there is no survival. Arthur's original speech got the people and the soldiers pumped up. Even if he doesn't believe in it at all, he knows that he will win. There is no difficult road in front of him. Later on, Arthur sets sail with his army and over 1,000 ships. The whole of Westeros would have to combine their fleets to challenge him, but still, Arthur will separate some ships from the main fleet to protect Westeros against invaders or anything like that. He doesn't want to intimidate the other lords, after all, there is no need to be scared of old Arthur. The man who is best friends with the King Robert Baratheon. But a proud man can be scary in its own right, he will do something dumb because of his pride. A couple of weeks later and the royal fleet meets up with the Red Hawk fleet which now consists of only around 400 ships, which is still big as hell. But not too big that it becomes unbearable. Arthur goes towards the royal ship and boards it with a couple of his best bodyguards. Lord Red Hawk, the king has called you to the war council, says one of the nameless servants around. Arthur has his armor on and a confident step on his walk coming. He walks towards the cabin and enters the door casually, Baristan looks at him with a serious look, assessing the man in front of him. Robert and the other lords are sitting at a round table nailed to the floor. The king looks up and sees Arthur. Arthur walks closer and bows slightly towards the king. Your Majesty. He looks up and sees Robert staring at him intently. Ned and Stannis were there too. I heard you were sick, says Robert, his face morphing into a smile, and in the end he says, but it doesn't seem like too bad. Arthur smiles back. I heard you were fatter, but you aren't that fat. Bah ha 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 ha. Robert laughs out loudly and Ned chuckles at this slightly. Stannis only has a serious look on his face as usual. I might have gotten fatter, but can you blame me? Imagine smelling sh*t all day long. Wine is the only thing keeping me from jumping off the Red Keep. Then we would have Cersei on the throne as regent, says Arthur. That doesn't sound bad. Bah ha 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 ha, we will have half the kingdom dead if she steps foot on the throne, says Robert loudly. Arthur, thinking on his mind, is thinking. You have no idea how right you are, you fat foo. K chapter 43, sticking out. Everyone laughs and smiles as old friends reunite. Robert, Ned, and Arthur smile and tell stories while Stannis just eats by the side of the table. And here I was, about piss out drunk, and I just bashed my shield against Ned, explains Arthur, seemingly drunk. The people cheering me while I was like, wait, what? What just happened? Bah ha 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 ha. Robert laughs while Ned chuckles. Arthur is telling how his win against Ned when he was drunk was just a fluke. And so, I was known as Arthur the Unbeatable Knight, announces Arthur. I would have become the pissing knight if I had a weaker bladder. Stannis just looks at Arthur, the man who was said to be sick. Varys had said so, and the man isn't one to report wrong info. This is not the man who slaughtered and ped his way through the Reach, concludes Stannis as he drinks a glass of water. He is dangerous, no one says anything about it. But when I bring up the fleet that he is building, everyone laughs. Arthur smiles and laughs as he hears one of Robert's stories of when he ked another big-breasted girl. The spider considers him dangerous, contemplates Stannis. I don't trust the eunuch at all. But when he says someone is dangerous, I can take his word for it. Stannis can see through Arthur and knows that the man must be sick, but he is just hiding it. His children aren't the sharpest tools in the shed, and he doesn't like that at all. In the Iron Islands, Balon Greyjoy looks at the council around him. What is the news on King Robert and his armies? Arthur has joined him, says Euron from the side, a calm look on his face. He looks at the table absent-minded. He is dangerous, his fleet is huge, we must destroy it if we want to be able to even do anything more than just stay hold in our castles. Balon nods. That is true, that sick man seems to have gotten up. Euron, make sure that this is the last battle that he will ever participate in. Of course, father, says Euron, his face fully confident. He is confident in his assassination abilities. Plus he has learned recently that a group of people doesn't like Arthur at all. Back in the meeting room, Arthur, Ned, and Robert plan for their attack against the Greyjoy. I will use my fleet, my numbers are higher so I can absolutely destroy them, says Arthur. He then points at the Iron Islands. Then we storm Pike and we have Balon kneel, or have his head in a pike. Robert nods at that. I suggest that we kill the children too, suggests Arthur. Robert seems to think about this, while Ned is appalled by this. Let me explain, we shouldn't let them live. Once a Greyjoy, always a Greyjoy, this way at least they can rest in the seven hells. Bang! Ned suddenly smashes his hand on the table and looks at Arthur. Are you mad? No, answers Arthur casually, not even a trace of fear on his face. I am logical, after all, why take a risk with them? The Greyjoy have always rebelled. I say we get rid of them. Ned stares at Arthur with anger in his eyes. He couldn't believe that his old friend would be so cruel as to kill even children. In the end, Arthur shrugs nonchalantly and says, of course, this is the king's decision to make. I will follow whatever he decides. Robert looks at Arthur. He truly seemed to contemplate what his friend said. He thinks whether he should kill the children or not. After all, in the future they are bound to grow into pists. But he still shakes his head, not knowing what to decide upon. Arthur, you take care of the navy. I will decide what to do with the children later on. Of course, your grace, says Arthur as he gets up and bows slightly before leaving the room. After Arthur leaves the room, Robert sighs out loudly. He won't be happy with my decision at all. Ned breathes out a sigh of relief at that, and his body relaxes. Well, the North will always stand by you, your grace. Robert nods at that absent-mindedly. Arthur, is he wrong though? Arthur POV. As I get out of the room, a slight frown adorns my face. This is all an act. I couldn't give a sh*t if the Greyjoy lived or died. But I did want Asha Greyjoy to bear me some children just in case. How old should she be by now? Well, it doesn't matter, she should be old enough to give birth to children. That way I can have my blood in there, and once that is done, I can just control the Iron Islands from behind the scenes. If Robert decides to kill the Greyjoy children, Asha would escape due to my help. I also need to learn some magic from the children of the forest. That type of magic doesn't seem like the kind to give up lifespan. Should I drink Shade of the Evening, that is drunk by the warlocks of Karth? It should give me enough lifespan to play around with, but that would degrade my mental state by a lot. No. I shouldn't use that damn liquid. After all, look at what it did to the Undying Ones. All dead, don't even breathe, have blue lips and eyes from drinking so much Shade of the Evening. I really should kill them all, they are so ancient that they are bound to be some of the best magic users around. I am of course confident that I am, or used to be better than them. But now, my lifespan, which used to be like a bonfire is now only at the size of a flickering matchstick. I have tried many methods to regain some of it. I have had mediocre success with stealing other people's life fire, the conversion rate is sh*t and the ritual needs to be done on the full moon. I would die of old age before I can regenerate even 20% of my life fire. I need some more magic knowledge nowadays. I should explore some more, or have people explore for me and they give me their discoveries. Money can give one even magic. Half a month later and I am in my main ship, I look at the Greyjoy fleet in front of me. I outnumber them more than 3 to 1 in ships. But I must still be careful so I do not fail this. I look up and see dark clouds approaching. Davis has charge of the ships. I don't want to endanger myself at all, that wouldn't be smart for me right now. Fwish. Stab. Hey? I feel hot liquid run down my chest suddenly, I look down and see a knife stick out of my chest. What? Ah. I see. I have been stabbed. For those that are curious, even though Arthur has created his immortality spell, he isn't sure it even works, so he has been dodging from taking that route as much as he can. Chapter 44, Betrayal. As I see. I have been stabbed. I look down and see a knife sticking out from my chest. Ah, this is bad, real bad. I am not 100% sure the spell would work. After all, in this world magic is so volatile. Is this how I die? Again? No. I must live. Through my children. Swish. The man pulls his dagger out of my back, and I turn around to see one of my children. Throw him overboard. He orders some of my hand-selected guards and they throw me off the ship. He has an emotionless look in his eyes, cleaning his dagger as if what he just did. He looks at me, he must see something that he likes because he smiles. The faceless men are useful, even if they refuse to do the job directly. I can see something in his eyes, I can only assume that it is regret because nowadays my eyesight isn't the best either. Sorry father, you weren't a bad dad. But I am simply too ambitious. And as the third son, born of a maid, I would never achieve anything. Again, I am thankful to you father. I will try to not kill my older siblings in your honor. He bows down in respect to me. Geralt, you little sht, I regret spilling my seed in your mother you piece of sht. Well sh*t, seems like I get killed by one of my kids. I see the guards around me come and tie me up, gag me, and throw me in the sea to drown. I couldn't even say anything as my lungs had been pierced. Fouquet, well ain't this a thing, my son Geralt, the son that I had with a maid just effing killed me. I never saw this happening. I guess I instinctively thought that they wouldn't betray me because we are a family. But I was wrong. Damn. I hope the spell works. Honestly, even as I die, I can't help but be a little proud of Geralt. He has the will to go places, sadly for him, if I can be reborn. Then he won't be surviving any longer. General POV. In the city of London, inside the castle in the middle of the city. A muscular young man is laying down on his bed, with 2 women to his side. The man had silver hair and black eyes. Oliver, wake up! Calls out a woman as the doors in his room open. The woman is a middle-aged woman, but she didn't at all look her age. When she sees Oliver laying on his bed with multiple women around him. Oliver! Yells the woman, waking up the sleeping girls and they immediately get up and run away, just with some sheets around their bodies. This woman was the Lord's lover. Arthur's lover, a woman who has been with him for many years and the mother of the next Lord by right. But strangely Oliver was still asleep, his face drenched in a cold sweat, his breath heavy as if he was hungry for air. His eyes suddenly open in panic. Ah! Yells Oliver, his face full of panic. This worried his mother who asked. Oliver. She comes to his side and looks at him with a worried look on her face. Oliver looks at his hand strangely, his face calms down as a smile appears on his face. Sorry, mother. It seems like I just had a bad dream. Says Oliver, a smile on his face. His mother found the smile on his face unfamiliar, but very familiar at the same time. The way his smile put her at ease, and the eyes that exude confidence as if everything is within the palm of his hand. His mother dismisses these thoughts and goes to hug her son, not caring that he is naked. Oliver, I told you to be careful and not to take any harlot into your bed. Yes, mother. Sorry, I won't be doing it again, says Oliver, his eyes as if looking at something else. What is wrong, my little hawk? Asks his mother, making Oliver just shakes his head. What did you see in your dream? Oliver winced slightly as he heard the question. Nothing important, just a red hawk getting killed by a black one. I see, says the mother, not knowing what scared her son about that. Honestly, your father should be taking disciplinary actions and not just let you train physically. Oliver smiles and hugs his mother. Don't worry, I won't act so recklessly anymore, mother. I don't want to worry you. This dream, I must try to change. Yes, yes, my son, says the mother, not knowing what to do. Her ex-slave mentality kicking in and not being used to making decisions on her own. After a while, his mother walks off and she will wait for him to get dressed so they can eat supper together. Oliver gets up and goes towards the mirror on the dresser. The room was very messy, with clothes laying about, broken plates, and body fluids all over the room. He frowns at this but doesn't pay attention to it for too long. He looks at his body, and his hand runs along with his muscles. Whoosh! He punches the air, frowning, and smiling as he tries to do different things like a handstand. He is successful, and can easily do one. He clenches his fist and smiles. Good enough. He looks around and sees a sword in another corner of the room. He goes and picks it up. Whoosh! His body moves perfectly. If any guard was here they would know that unlike how usually Oliver moves. Now his moves were on a whole other level, showing that the difference in experience was enormous. Oliver smiles at this, feeling his body move better than it has in decades. He. A smile that would bring chills through anyone's body comes out. At the same time, the invasion of Pike was happening. Robert had an enraged look on his face. He had just heard about the death of his friend. He had been killed by a faceless man. His son had tried to stop the assassin but was heavily injured. Even the son barely survived, that is what the letters said. Many people were sad at Arthur Redhawk's death, but many more were happy. The Reach would have thrown a feast all over their realm if it wasn't for the Greyjoy rebellion going on. In Highgarden, Olenna Tyrell looks at a letter in her hands and a smirk appears on her face. And so I outlive another smart man, says Olenna out loudly. A small girl next to her looking at the old woman with curious looks on her face. What does that mean, Grandma? Asks the cute little girl. Marjorie, you should always look after your family, says Olenna, a mysterious look in her eyes. It seems like a red hawk was playing with a rose and it was bound to be pricked, or more correctly another hawk, who was darker. Marjorie is confused by this, not understanding what it means. Grandma, can I get another lemon cake? Olenna smiles at her granddaughter. Since I am in such a good mood you can have one. Arthur, you were a scary man, contemplates Olenna. But even you died before me, and so will many men continue to do so. Olenna gets up and walks off with Marjorie. The MC got betrayed by people he didn't expect to. His son, Gerald, is a lot like his father and has done a lot of things behind the scenes. Arthur is not omnipotent and had a lot of enemies, the most dangerous of them being the Faceless Men. Because while they didn't kill him directly, his body sure got so weak. Assumptions of the MC are not 100% the truth and it's not a fact, just an assumption. Chapter 45, Oliver. Oliver continued to train relentlessly. He was getting used to his new body more and more as days went by. It didn't take long for him to get back his prime martial strength, and more too. Because only now does Arthur notice that his son's body was better than his last. This one has decent instincts and better overall flexibility and power. Because while in his previous body, Oliver had studied countless magics, he had to sit down a lot, but his son didn't have that thing bothering him, so he trained and *ked ever since he could remember. Still, a couple of months passed and his brother Gerald returned to London City in Carclaw Point. Oliver has a sad look on his face as he sees Gerald seemingly sad once he enters the keep. He can see from a window as his eyes shine yellow for a split second, taking the form of a hawk. If he still had his red hawk with him he wouldn't have to do the spying himself. But he must find a new spy animal. He can't take the red hawk with him anymore or a man stuck to a tree on the other side of the wall would notice something wrong. Doing the observation myself is quite hard, contemplates Oliver, planning to find a new animal familiar. Nothing like a lion or a bear, because they would be useless as hell to him. He would rather take a mouse than a big animal because that way one can be used to spy. Lions can easily be killed by humans using weapons too. But what is more worrying for Oliver is if he will be killed by his son again, technically brother now. He knows that the son who killed him technically is not the next in line, Oliver is, but Gerald has enough connections to allow him the ability to kill Arthur, and no one being the wiser about it. He must have killed the guards who helped him kill me too. Ponders Oliver, already assuming so since he too would have done the same in his position. 3 people can keep a secret only if 2 are dead. That is Oliver's thoughts on this, and the same should go for his son. Because Gerald is competent too. He knew that his son Oliver has no real backing or connections. That could be attributed to himself, as when he was in Arthur's body he was training Oliver physically for when he took over. He wouldn't need the mental chart and he manipulated Oliver's life so he wouldn't have friends who would be able to tell when he took over. That should have been his boon for when he was reborn again, but now it kind of turned into a bad thing. Oliver has no backing if he decides to fight against his brother. He could convince Davos to fight for him, but that would only have him dead. Because the man is not of high birth, but he is competent in handling ships and a lot of the soldiers respect him, so Gerald would have an assassin kill him as soon as he got a whiff of treason from the man. Truly the situation has become complicated, especially since Gerald also seemed to have used the Faceless Men's animosity with his father to breed a good relationship between them by killing him. So now the Faceless Men are free so to say. Of course, Gerald is more competent than that, so Oliver concludes that his son/brother should have some countermeasures to keep the Faceless Men under control, while still giving the illusion of freedom to the men. At least that is what he would have done if he was in his son's shoes. He would be lying if Oliver said that he wasn't a little worried. But yet, the truth of this is that he has created another player in the game. One that he doesn't have as much predictability over as he would like, even if the new player is his son. Right now, he knows that if he had paid a little more attention to his children and made Gerald the heir then he would still be in high previous body with all the prestige that he would need for when the time came. Sigh such a shame, but he knows that he can't make the perfect decision every time and that there is no use crying over spilled milk. He must kill his son so he doesn't get stabbed again. But now there is something positive that came out of this too. Now he knows that the rebirth spell works, he will continue to live as long as he has blood descendants, this has increased his courage and he is now willing to take risks that he otherwise wouldn't have taken at all. A player who had only one life in the game would act differently from someone who knew he could respawn. Of course, Oliver already has a couple of hidden bastard children that he hid before just in case the spell doesn't work in order to transfer his soul into his children and only the descendants of his possessed body. Still, the situation has become too complicated at the moment. Concludes Oliver, understanding that if he fights against Gerald right now he will just get another swift death. But in the end, he does have another advantage against his son. He knows that Harold has no idea that Oliver is no longer his muscle-headed brother who doesn't even have 2 brain cells to rub together. Hopefully, he will be able to trick his son now, so he doesn't have to move in another weaker body because this one is perfect. Oliver in the end met with his brother in one of the rooms, they both sat down and sadly looked at the coffin that will have nobody in it. Arthur's body was never found as he fell into the sea. How did he die? Asks Oliver, already knowing the truth but he doesn't want to act abnormally. He slipped and fell on the ocean during a storm. Says Gerald, his dark hair covering his eyes. Unlike Oliver who has silver hair, showing his Valyrian heritage. I told everyone in the letters that he died fighting valiantly. I don't want father to be ashamed even in death with the way he died. I want him to be remembered as the great man he was. Oliver nods at this, tears slowly coming out of his eyes. He had done this trick a lot in his past 2 lives so he does it even more easily now. I can't believe it that father is dead. Yet. Is all that Gerald says. As he looks at the coffin he winces with a regretful look on his face. But she shakes his head slightly and then a determined look appears. Sorry father, but I promise not to let our legacy die. I will raise it to a level that will make you proud. Oliver could easily read Gerald's expression and tell what he was thinking. Because the latter didn't bother to hide from his usually naive brother who only knew how to fight. I don't think I am suited to rule. Says Oliver suddenly, a very sincere look appears on his face. Gerald looks at his older brother surprised. Never before has he heard his brother admit something like this. I want you to rule brother. Exclaims Oliver, shocking Gerald who had been contemplating whether he should kill him. You will be able to keep father's legacy alive and even take it to a higher place. Oliver smiles as he looks at his brother's shocked face. He didn't want to try dying again, so he will let his brother keep control of the family power, till he gets the tools for Gerald to have an accident and break his neck. People die like flies during medieval times, there are many ways one would perish. But there was also something else on Oliver's mind. I need to get some things from beyond the wall too. The MC will be address S8 as Oliver from now on. Also the MC now has the balls to do some dangerous things and even take some calculated risks. P.S. Trying to make the chapters longer. Chapter 46, Carving a Face. Gerald was confused by this, he has known his brother Oliver for a lifetime. His brother has always been a musclehead and brash. He wanted to rule, but he never studied economics, ships, and other things needed for a lord to know. Why? Asks Gerald, looking down as his hair covers his eyes. Well, you know when father locked me in the city and took you away. Says Oliver, a reminiscing look in his eyes. Dad planned to make you the heir. Gerald's body shakes at this. He just got the biggest shock of his life. He had just killed his father because he wanted to rule, but Arthur was still his father. So Geralt felt extremely regretful due to this. His father had always treated him good, but hearing that he would have gotten rulership and that his father truly believed in him, his guilt was overwhelming. Tears started spilling out of his eyes. He couldn't help it. Oliver goes and hugs his brother. "Come on now, Geralt." He comforts him and then teases. Having Lord Redhawk cry is embarrassing. He says all of this with a smile on his face, which makes Geralt even more guilty. But he chuckles slightly at his brother's jokes. He assumes that Oliver must have misunderstood something. But Oliver on the other hand had an opposite thought process. He had never planned to make Geralt anything too important, but words are free and this son of his is quite competent. So he will go and explore for a little bit and leave things in Geralt's hands. Then he will come back, stronger, and even better at magic. He will kill Geralt, his brother will have an accident and Oliver will then start ruling like always. But also he must take care of a couple of things by himself. Now that he knows that he can respawn, he has many things to take care of. Things that he was cautious of taking out before. Places that he was too afraid to explore before. He then remembers a saying from his past life. A coward dies 1,000 deaths, while the valiant dies only once. It takes a couple of weeks for Oliver to get ready for his journey. It wasn't anything too big, just a couple of dozens of well-trained men who didn't know how to read or write. The latter is essential to him. He gets a good ship for himself and finally as he is about to set sail, his brother and a company of guards appears. Geralt has a smile on his face and Oliver is relaxed too. It doesn't matter even if he is killed now, he can just revive. But it seems like Geralt isn't her for that as he takes out a dagger in its sheath and gives it to him. "This will help keep you safe, brother," says Geralt. Oliver takes the dagger out of its sheath and his eyes widen in surprise. "Valyrian steel." "Yab," confirms Geralt with a smile on his face. "This cost me a lot to get, brother, so be sure to return it to me. Give me your word on this." Oliver can see the worried look on Geralt's face and the teen just wants some confirmation from his brother that he will return safely. So he decides to do something unexpected, he puts back the dagger in its sheath. "Don't worry, I will return home. With gifts too." Geralt smiles, widens and hugs his older silver-haired brother. He has finally achieved what he wanted, so no more of his family needs to die now. "I will protect you all," resolves Geralt, promising to not let any more of his family get killed. He will protect them all and make himself powerful just like his father. No one would dare to go against his father, because the outcome was always clear to them. Even while sick, Arthur, who could barely move, had kept bravos and thousands of cruise ships in line just by his name alone, who brought chills down their spines. No pirates never dared to attack when Arthur was alive. But now it is completely different. Geralt doesn't have a terrifying reputation like his father. So I will have to make some for myself. Geralt's eyes shine in a dangerous light, while at the same time feeling slightly sad that his brother isn't here next to him. But he still has his other brother. Now I just need to wait for someone to raise his head and I will chop it off. After that everyone will fall in line. At the same time, Oliver looks at the city of London, the place that he spent quite a lot of effort to build. I will be coming back to this place before the canon story begins to play out. Also, it seems like I will need to start getting used to being called Oliver. Contemplates Oliver, many things going through his head as a dark smile appears on his face. Oliver, MC, POV. It doesn't take long for me to finally arrive at my destination. Well, it took almost a whole month. But I am now used to this, plus, with the new crew, I got to know them quite well and was able to sniff out which of them are the spies. As expected of Geralt, competent as always. I really should have spent some more time teaching him as a father. The first thing I did when I took over this body destroyed my son's memories. I know how this works, I will slowly start getting influenced by them and will be more of a merge between Oliver and me than just me. I would like to stay myself, I mean why should I care if someone else with my memories lives? That isn't me. Anyway, thankfully this experiment of mine was a success. I don't know what I could have even done if it wasn't. Still, now I have learned my lesson. Not too much magic, especially the types who summon storms. I was at the height of my youth, but I was so weak that even a teenager could kill me. Still though, now I have so many enemies to take care of. The three-eyed raven has to go, and the same goes for the faceless men in the House of the Undying, also Euron Greyjoy. Geralt kind of ked me over on most of my plans, so I will have to start all over again. As I contemplate that is when I see a city surrounded by walls appear in my field of vision. Yunkai. I have left some money here as my other identity, and I must also buy some slaves and get rid of the spies in my crew. This is quite an exciting adventure. I can indulge myself slightly now. I run my hand through my silver hair. I mustn't forget to also go and try to reach Valyria. There is some inheritance in there for the descendants, and I am occupying the body of one. Hopefully, Dragon eggs are a big surprise there. It will make this trip worthwhile. I arrive in Yunkai with no problem. I just dock my ship into the bay and go with my crew into a club on the outside of the town. The place is good enough and I reserved it for just my crew today. General POV. Oliver takes his whole crew to the place and cheers at them. All of you, thank you for coming. The crew hollers in celebration and drinks. Oliver smiles and takes some whiskey barrels and brings them in the middle of the room. When suddenly Oliver goes and opens the lids and lets the whiskey flood the ground. He then takes the flint and stone and that is when. Boom! The room explodes in fire, everyone is burned to a crisp and killed. That is until a naked muscular man with burning hair walks outside, the fire not affecting him at all, except burning his hair. He uses a slight invisibility spell and disappeared. The ones who were the spies from my brother, was every one of them. As expected of my competent son. Contemplates Oliver. At the same time in the docks. Boom! Oliver's ship explodes and the dock catches on fire too. Also, the documents of who arrived today in the docks burn. Oliver knows that he must now disappear from the eyes of the world. So he sneaks outside of the city and walks along the shore. But suddenly he stops and takes out a dagger, the Valyrian steel one that his brother gave him. Slowly he points it towards his face, and starts carving out his face. Leaving behind just his bloody face that looked scary as hell with a little blood dripping from it. He puts the skin of his face in a sack. Then he ties his head with bandages, leaving only a slight opening just to breathe and see. It seems like I need a new name now. Wonders Oliver out loud. Now he can go and do whatever he wants. I guess. Reaper should be good enough. Chapter 47, I want a new face. A/N, just a warning, the MC does some messed up sh*t this chapter. 2 weeks later and a ship arrives in Bravus. Oliver, whose face is now wrapped in bandages, steps down. His blood has dried now, making the bandages look red, and he smiles as he sees the city. He remembers the time that he spent here as Arthur. But he needs to take some money from a hidden stash here, and then he will be able to start traveling all around the world. But first, he needs a new face. So the first thing he does is go to the House of White. He hurries to the back of the building and waits. An hour later, a girl wearing jewelry in a red dress comes out from an underground passage. She has a noble feeling to her, like a noble lady who is lost. But Oliver doesn't do anything as the woman gets on a boat and pays the boatman a couple of coins. Oliver follows them by going underwater and swimming stealthily. As soon as she arrived in a city, the noble-looking woman entered an alley. Bam! Oliver just bashes her behind her head with a wooden bat. Immediately knocking out the woman. He is wearing a cloak and a mask so no one notices him. Immediately Oliver then takes her into an underground passage. These were all made by him when he overlooked the city. He also killed all the workers back then so no one knows about it like him. As the woman wakes, she is in a dark room with a cloaked man with bloody bandages around his face. She is calm as she looks at him at first, but then anger appears on her face. Don't you know who I am? Release me this instant. My father will hear about this. She yells at Oliver angrily. He just shrugs his shoulders and smiles, with his bloody bandages moving. The woman looks scared. You faceless men truly are good at acting. They truly were, he wouldn't have ever noticed a difference in a normal situation. But in the end, they are still humans, so their abilities can all be explained logically. The woman calms down once she hears that. She looks at Oliver coldly. The man is faceless too. Oliver smirks. Of course. Sadly, I am not an assassin like you. Anyway, I want a new face. You can try joining the House of Black and White for that. Says the woman. Oliver just walks close to her. She could smell the salty smell on him. Immediately she concluded that he must work in the sea or been at sea recently. He then grabs her chin roughly and makes her look at his eyes, which are all bloodshot. I don't want to lose myself. Like you, do you know who you are? The woman is just another follower of the many-faced god. While you were unconscious, I checked your body thoroughly. You had whip scars on your back. So you were most likely a slave girl before you became a faceless assassin. She doesn't have any reaction on her face at that. But Oliver assumes that he must have hit a nerve or something because she isn't answering. Okay, now I will make this simple. Teach me how to change faces. She shakes her head at that. No. Is all she says. Oliver doesn't need any more as his face becomes calm. You are quite brave. Let's see how long that will last. Says Oliver as he goes to the darkness of the room and comes back with a rat. I will put this guy inside you. Let's see if maybe having your womb devoured from the inside will make you talk. She does not react to that, her body doesn't even twitch in fear at the horrific things that Oliver describes to her. 2 hours later and Oliver has a frown on his bandaged face as he looks at the dead woman in front of him. She had a huge bloody hole on her lower body. The woman had tears and snot running down her face as she looked terrified. She had screamed so much, but in the end, she didn't speak a thing about the faceless man. Oliver wasn't discouraged at this at all. He plans to capture another faceless man tomorrow. They are all human no matter how they act, so there must be some of them willing to squeal. In the end, he just takes some oil and covers the room in it. Which after he burns it down, he has hundreds of these hidden disposable rooms among Bravos. He did plan a lot just in case something happened to his first body. One day later and in another similar room, a tied-up man is crying. Please, let me go now. Oliver doesn't say anything, as he takes off his bandages, and below it is a black-haired and blue-eyed face. Truly amazing. So this is the concoction the faceless man used to make the new faces. He thinks in amazement, not paying mind at all to the tied-up man. He looks at his face in the mirror and is amazed once again. For each identity that they steal there goes a lot of work into them, especially if they go deep undercover. In the end, Oliver just turns around and takes out a knife. Fwish! Slashing the throat of the now castrated faceless man. He was a squealer. He gave up everything just after the crack of his first testicle. Then he puts the same room on fire. Not leaving behind any evidence of what happened here. So 1 month later a blonde-haired man with blue eyes is in a brothel in Karth. He has a pleasure slave in his lap. Hello there Dio, can you tell me where you are from and I will tell you everything about myself, everything. Says the pleasure slave wearing skimpy clothing. The man now identified as Dio just looks at the woman in the eyes and sees the greed in them. Others call me Dio, there is no need for you to know any more about me. Also, I don't care about your life story dear, you are not my first pleasure slave, and you won't be the last. The woman has an uncomfortable look on her face. She has met a lot of men, but not one's quite as straightforward as Dio. But it's her job to try and get some information about the men that come through here. So in the end she decides to suggest something else. How about a story? Dio becomes curious at this a little. That would be better. He takes a sip of the drink in front of him and mentions the woman to continue. She smiles at this slightly, she also knows how to handle men who aren't playful. Well, the story goes like this. In an age long, long ago, there used to be 2 moons in the sky. But one of them strayed too close to the sun, it cracked open due to the heat, releasing 1,000,000 dragons. Oliver seems in deep thoughts at this. Until a small smile appears on his face. Is that so? Though he knows that a story like that is most likely fiction. After all, a creature that is killed by a scorpion bolt definitely can't survive in space. But he doesn't tell any of that to the woman in front of him which he considers like an uncultured barbarian. But his mind does wander in something else. He is fire resistant, which is quite amazing. When he was in his first body he did various blood rituals to reawaken the dormant power. I should try to get me some dragons. Contemplates Oliver, even though nothing is recorded on how to hatch a dragon egg. He knows from the book and TV show in his past life. Plus if he gets it now, it will be gigantic by the time canon comes around. Well, I will think about that later. Concludes Oliver as he looks at the woman in front of him and tells her. Get up and turn around. Are right here. Asks the woman slightly nervous as she has never done it in public. The place is filled with people. Oliver just sighs at that. Just shut up and listen. I didn't pay you to ask questions. The woman nods and takes off her underwear. Everyone looks at her as Oliver pulls his pants down and impales the woman. Yeti, here I come. Thinks Oliver as he concludes where he plans to go next. Chapter 48, Burned to a Crisp. Walking amongst the Karth, Oliver, wearing another face just strides through. He looks at the House of the Undying in the distance and frowns slightly. The warlocks in there aren't anything special, but the Undying are the real trouble. A group of rotting corpses in the basement of the building, they are all thousands of years old, but in the end, by now they are just mindless beasts who suck on life force. Their reliance on nightshade, a type of magical liquid that turns your lips blue. It causes hallucinations, and overuse of it isn't good at all. Oliver, MC, POV. Those are the first who must die, the House of the Undying. Magic must be purged from this world, only I must have it. The strange force of magic is too unpredictable and at the same time weirdly powerful. But at the same time, I don't have the power to make it disappear. I must just destroy the places concentrated with it. After that, I can only hope that they will be killed by the passage of time. But that is still too far into the future. I know that taking over the magic is not doable, many tried to do it, from the Blood Emperor, who used zombie-like creatures and failed. He didn't even go past the halfway mark of Essos. He was the best magician recorded in history and he still failed all the same. Doing the same thing and hoping for different results is the definition of stupidity. People just don't accept magic because they can't understand it. A magic-using ruler is something that they definitely won't accept. Anyway, no use thinking about things so far in the future, I must concentrate on the present and what I can do now. It wouldn't be bad to have Karth as a city under me. Its strategic location is quite good and the wealth it gathers is good. Also Daenerys, she is another thing. That will either become my trump card or my worst enemy. But I must let her play her part. Westeros must be in chaos and fear so I can slither my way in there. Still, though playing a part in her journey wouldn't be too bad. Plus she is human, and can be killed. Anyway, I must go to Yeti, that is where the tomb of the Blood Emperor lies and many other magical knowledge. Then Asai, the land of shadows, a place I wouldn't normally go due to a high chance of death being very apparent in that place. That is the city of mages pretty much, then there is north of the wall. I must meet a certain crow. All of these things must be done before the canon timeline starts, or else by then, it will be useless anyway as everything starts into play. Geralt, MC's brother/son, POV. I look at the worrying news that has been delivered to me. Well, one thing about his father is that his spying network was surprisingly wide. I wonder what he was preparing about. Anyway, it seems like Oliver has all died in a fire, though his body is nowhere to be found. He should have escaped, hopefully. Best I can do now is have the spies keep an eye out for him and put a reward on his well-being and return. 100,000 gold dragons should be enough. And I will make whoever was involved in my brother's harm wish he was dead. No one can hurt the people I love. I will kill every single one of them. When I killed my father I had steeled will, knowing that I might die. But, in the end, it was all for nothing, I was the next in line. That is, something that I regret to this day. But there is no use crying over spilled milk now, I must continue doing what must be done. My lord, Mace Tyrell has come to visit. Says a voice behind my door. Show him to the dining room. I order. I called him over, our relationship with the Reach needs to get softened. Not completely quelled because Father Fu *ked them during Robert's rebellion. There is no way to fix what he did, but I don't want our family to have blood feuds after I die. I doubt that all of them agree, after all, I can't publicly pay any reparations to them. Because if I did, that would be me admitting that my family did something wrong and that is a big no. There is a reason Tywin Lannister doesn't send the Mountain's Head to Dorne to quell any hatred that they might have. First, that wouldn't be enough and second, it makes it seem like you are weak and are admitting that your family is weak. But Tywin did the smart thing even if it created hate with Dorne. He needed one thing to offer to Robert that would make the Fat King happy. Second, he already had plans to have his daughter as queen, the Lannisters would be eternally in danger if those kids lived. Of course, Tywin would never admit it publicly that he did the deed, but everyone knows what he did. As I contemplate different things like that and try to figure out how to use them to my advantage. I had already changed clothes and looked more noble and rich now due to the golden embroidery on my clothes. When I go to meet Mace Tyrell I forcefully open the door. Bam! That causes a loud noise, startling Mace, this is what I need. I must make Mace instinctively think of me as superior. Though I am only in my teens, this is something that I must do like this. Plus my body looks more like I am in my early 20s. Lord Redhawk. Says Mace Tyrell nervously. I act like I don't see his nervousness and just smile politely at him. Hello there Lord Tyrell. I must say, I have long wanted to meet you. I tell him. The only man who was able to defeat King Robert during the rebellion. Mace smiles as I say that, he must think that he is quite famous for that little trick of his. But everyone knows that it was Tarly who did it. I heard of your accomplishments during the Greyjoy rebellion too Lord Redhawk. Says Mace, trying to butter me up. My father had a good relationship with the man and they were even friends when his father used to travel around and participate in tourneys. Also, my accomplishments in the Greyjoy rebellion were minimal, I was able to destroy the Greyjoy fleet only because my numbers allowed me to. I had 10 ships for each ship they had. General POV. While Geralt was playing his game in Westeros, Oliver was playing in Essos, he was quite amused as he looked at the creatures in front of him. Undead creatures with shining blue eyes and lips charge at him. But with a sword in his hand, a Valyrian steel one. Fwish. He cuts the undead's hand that approaches him. Don't touch me you rotting *TS. He mocks them with a smile on his face. The undead growl at him about something. But Oliver only raises a questioning eyebrow and takes a small vial from his pocket, this causes the undead to shriek back as they see the green liquid in the vial. Why are you so scared? Asks Oliver with a malicious smile on his face. This is just some good old wildfire. This causes the creatures to cower back even more. These were the zombies who devoured life force. The ones who live at the bottom level of the House of Undying. So Oliver throws the vial of wildfire at them, the vial breaks and splashes amongst them and on the ground too. He then takes a lighter out of his pocket, one that he had made himself. And throws it at the zombie-like creature who was drenched the most. Boom! Grrrrrrghhhhh. The creature shrieks as it is burned to a crisp. Oliver takes out a bigger vial, the size of his hand, and throws it at the creature. Boom! This one is more volatile as it starts burning every other undead too. They screech in pain. They are terrible sounds as if a woman wailing after her child died. But Oliver doesn't mind that as he looks at the undead creatures, watching and making sure that those things are burned to a crisp. Chapter 49, Returning. Oliver just looks at the creatures burning, he doesn't have a care in the world at this. His plan is already in motion, from his view, too many people in the world know magic, that number needs to be slashed down. 1 year passes as Oliver travels all over Essos, due to his fear of death is gone now, he learns many things, and many other magic abilities too. In Westeros, nothing of note happened during this year and even due to Oliver's son managing his territory, the kid is not incompetent enough to ruin anything, though he did fix the bad blood that his house and House Tyrell had between each other. They even have a trade deal going on now in which they use Red Hawk ships to export and import many materials from Essos. Currently, Eddard was within Winterfell doing some intermediary task of solving a man whose cow was killed by a hunter. These were the true duties of an everyday lord. Some would let their maesters or military men that they trust to handle these things. But Ned will never do something like that. That was when the guards dragged a red-haired man inside. Lord Stark, this is a man accused of stealing from Lord Bolton. Says the guard, there had been recent mass thievery in Bolton's territory, and while Eddard doesn't like the man, he is still the Warden of the North, so he has to do his duty and take care of something like this. He was also accused of witchcraft. State your name. Orders Eddard, his voice very serious at this. My name. The man smirks at that. I have forgotten it long ago. Eddard felt a strange feeling rise his spine, it felt as if he was talking to someone who is incomprehensible. Do you want to know your future, Lord Stark? Asked the man. Oliver, MC, POV. I look at Ned and smile, I am tied up in ropes, but I don't mind this. I need to get to the wall next, and I want to solidify my new identity. Because appearing out of nowhere and saying I am a foreigner will get my head cut off. The Night's Watch probably would assume that I am a wildling acting like a foreigner. This way I now entered through the legitimate way. I can see Eddard who seems a little off-put by my words. Well, he is a reckless man, he would die either way so I doubt his fate will change either way. Even with my interference. I see then, Nameless, you have two choices in front of you, the chopping block or the wall. Your choice. Says Eddard, usually thieves would get their fingers cut or at worst their hand. But I have gone beyond that, my character Nameless stole from the Boltons, more specifically he stole their cattle, sheep, and such things. I spread them around the north to the people in need. I became kind of a Robin Hood figure, after that I was captured and here I am now. I could get used to this immortality thing. I will live one life how I wanted it, and then a different one after that. Super fun either way, honestly loved being Robin Hood, helping people and seeing their happy grateful looks. It felt nice. Strange, I have never felt like this before. Being nice is a luxury I never could afford. But now it seems like I can, what a truly nice feeling. After finishing things up and kicking this world towards modernization, I should live a couple of lives as a good man. I struggle against the ropes and cut them without anyone noticing, it is a simple magic trick, making people concentrate on something else away from the most important things. So when I get up, the guards all pull out their swords and point them at me. I just bow towards Eddard and say, I will be going to the wall then, Lord Eddard. He smirks at that, I smile back, he must know of my reputation here. Amongst the lords, it is terrible but very good amongst the common folk. After a little beating from the panicked guards, and then they tie me up once more before throwing me into the dungeons. There I met quite the unsavory bunch. Hee we got some fresh meat boys. Says one of the men in another cell crudely. I will foo your ass man, don't try me b*tch. I reply to him casually. Just imagine my huge DCK just ripping your ass apart. That silences everyone in the cell and I decide to get some needed sleep. As expected, the people in this world are inferior. They thought that they could compete against someone like me who has seen years of toxic internet material. I know insults that would make them feel grossed up on life. Still, the next day, I and some other criminals get on a wagon and start going towards the wall. So who even are you guys? I ask the people sitting on the same carriage as me. It is good to build connections with them before trying to get them to have my back. One of them, a man with a scar along with one of his eyes, looks at me and frowns. Shut the hell up. Welp, that didn't go well. I take a harmless body posture and say. Hey man, we will be fighting together now. So how about we try getting along? Foo *k off. Says the man once more, this makes me sigh in disappointment. So I just pull out a knife and before he can pull out his sword I have my knife at his throat. How about now? Wanna be friends? A dead-eyed look appears on my face as I look at the man. Causing him to shake in fear, everyone else in the carriage is frozen in shock. I just smile and take away the knife from the man's throat. Don't worry, I am just messing around, I said casually. Knowing that you have extra lives is helpful to the psyche. I now do some things that I would never dare do before just in case. It's a joke, man, chill out. I try to ease the situation, but now they will think that I am a psycho. Well, it was a bad joke, that's for sure, says the man. I just shrug at that. Well, I am about to go to the wall. Acting a little crazy isn't anything strange. You are one foo asterisk head up guy, ain't ye? Asks the man, this time with a resigned smirk on his face. Well, it is unfair for other people to decide what I am. But I guess that is how the world works, I told him. My plan is already going in motion. After all, what makes a lord? Is it blood lineage? Army? Martial power? Nope, what makes a lord, or someone a king, is the belief of most people that they are a lord or a king. It is a shadow on the wall, really, it is a non-existent concept. We are the many, the lords are the few. Our journey to the wall lasts for weeks, and during that time me and the other guys build a good friendly relationship. I learned of their minor crimes, which was stealing, stopping a lord's son from our asterisk upon someone, and the Scarface is going to the wall for abduction. He is from the Riverlands and tried to run away with a lord's daughter as they were both in love. Sadly, she was already in an arranged marriage. Chapter 50, Night's Watch. The first day I arrived in the Night Watch, I took my oaths in front of the creepy tree. I gotta say, if the old gods exist, they are some creepy motherfoo asterisk curs. Damn, that would actually suck if they existed. The South calls the northern people barbarians for a reason. I mean, there are still some houses that stick their enemies' entrails on trees. That sounds creepy as foo asterisk K, and that is coming from a guy like me who is a mage. But I guess that the unknown will always be scary to humans, just like magic is to some and the possibility of God's existence is to me. I mean, I still haven't seen any signs of their existence. The Lord of Light is also a sham religion, I have confirmed that myself. Seeing the future in the flames? High-level divination magic that uses a heavy amount of lifespan. Getting greater luck by sacrificing some king's blood? Sounds like blood ritual magic to me, and it is. Appearing young while old? Glamour magic, more specifically, glamour tied to the red stone that the priests have. Though the thing can store some lifespan from flame sacrifices, one will have to do it regularly. I would have gotten the stone, but it is useless to me as I don't plan to also have my lifespan drained by it slowly, while at the same time I will have to then resort to regular sacrifices to keep myself alive. Honestly, props to the person who created these magics and called it a religion. Really smart of them. They even made a crude form of extending one's life on this earth. All that is useless to me as I can just reincarnate into my bloodline continuously. As long as it continues, I will also continue to live. Right now, it is nothing too big, so I will have to be careful. I don't want to anger someone malicious enough that will try and kill all of my descendants. I have some bastards in Essos who are unrelated to me in any way other than blood, but those could die at a moment's notice. After all, street urchins die very often. Anyway, as I go back to the watch, one of the friends I made along the way here nudges at me. Hey, Hawk, I heard that you are skilled with a bow. If you get me a rabbit, I know a brother nearby and I have a couple of coppers on me, and you should try having some fun. He is a chubby man and his nose is high like a pig's. But contrary to his appearance, he is a nice guy in general. Sigh, listen, pig's feet. I talk to him like a child. Oi, don't call me pig's feet, call me by my name, damn it. He exclaims in annoyance. But I pay mind to that. Okay, so listen here, piggy. The names are just becoming worse, man. Complained pig's feet. I don't have the heart to tell him that I already forgot his name, that would ruin the friendship that we have built. Really should have paid more attention to that, but instead, I was trying to annoy the horses so they would kick someone in the face once they got close. It didn't work. Listen, man, your name is too complicated. Just like mine, so everyone calls me Hawk, and I will call you Piggy. I explained to him nicely. Foo asterisk K off and stop smiling at me creepily. It makes me get goosebumps. Says Piggy, showing me his hairy arm. Could have mistaken you for a bear with those arms. I tell him. I know, right, these boys are muscular. He seems to misunderstand. But I don't tell him. Ignorance is bliss, as they say. Damn, man, I was popular with the ladies back home. I knew I shouldn't have beaten that guy's face in. But didn't he try to r*pe a girl that you knew? I ask him, already having heard his damn story 100 times already. But I don't stop him from talking as he will then start telling about how starry-eyed the girl was after he defended her honor. I shouldn't break it to him that the girl will still probably get r*ped in another day. Sadly, real life doesn't have a nice ending where one beats the bad guy, and they just kind of disappear. They will always come back, with a couple more men, and just beat the living sh*t out of you. So as she was crying, tears running down her face. Piggy starts narrating his story. Of course tears were running down her face, you just told us she was crying. Shut the foo *k up Hawk, you always ruin this. Piggy is annoyed at this. Well, I have been pretty insistent on some petty things. Listen, man, if you are gonna tell a story then say it right. I tell him, making my petty interference for fun, seem more like I did it to teach Piggy. Also get thinner you fatso, I don't wanna have to carry your ass if we go north of the wall. Now Hawk, that is your misunderstanding. Says Piggy, a smug smile on his face. My fat is the greatest of armor, it will keep me warm from the cold, and blades will never be able to kill me. This isn't just because I ate too much, it is a strategy. You should put some meat on too as I will have to carry your ass through the snow if you suddenly pass out due to cold. Then you will wish you were as fat as me. Holy foo *k. Piggy. I look at him in surprise. You had your mouth yapping for so long I thought you wanted to suck my cock. Shut up you sword-swallowing skinny man. Just wait till we go to Castle Black, they haven't seen a woman in quite a while, you should be nice enough. Insinuates Piggy, a wide smile on his face. Man, I knew you were a sword swallower the moment I met you. I know I am irresistible even to men, but man, I thought you were only into male pigs. Piggy is about to insult me back when someone suddenly yells. Can you two just shut the f***ck up? Nagging on and on about sword swallowing and other sh*t like that, if you don't stop I will cut your cocks and stuff them down your throats. I look towards the angry man who said this and I see that he also is a recruit like us. He has an Asian-like look, with black hair and eyes and his body is small too. He must be some kind of thief as he is missing one hand and is too scrubby to be a warrior. Piggy then leans towards me and whispers. What the hell is wrong with him? I know right, what's us his ass? Whispered back. A big cock. Snickers Piggy cough trying to cover his laughter with a cough. I chuckle along and I see the Asian man looking at us hatefully. I wonder which side of the world did he come from? After all, even I have no idea where the Asia equivalent of this world is. I wonder what his name is. Whispers Piggy and he is not being as quiet as he thinks since the Asian dude seems agitated at this. But Piggy doesn't know when to stop. His eyes look like that of a snake. Sigh, he seems like some foreign person, probably stole something, look at his hand. I explained to Piggy, but now I am also curious about this Asian man. I haven't heard about where the Asian people live in this world. I would like to know that, after all, it could be a whole new continent. Chapter 51, First Scouting Mission. Oliver looks at both the man now that is known as Piggy and the Asian-looking man who he has started calling Snake. The three of them had now joined the Night's Watch for 3 weeks, and all of them had just been training and Snake, who had one of his hands missing, put a dagger in place of his hand. Oliver now too has started being called from Nameless, to Hawk due to his godly archery, he could shoot bullseye from any distance. As long as the bow could reach it, he would hit the target. Even the commander was impressed by this and when Hawk, Oliver, asked him for Piggy and Snake to be in his team he accepted. Ugh, I can't believe you foo *cur. Complains Piggy as he is on the ground. I have started getting thinner here. I have 2 things in this world, my balls and my fat. I am not willing to lose either of them. Hawk looks at him with a disappointed look on his face. They had been sparring on Hawk's insistence, and due to him being who he is Hawk won easily. Hey man, I am just preparing you for the soon-to-come expedition. Explained Hawk for the dozenth time. I am not here to make you feel bad, but you know, you kinda suck at using a sword. Yeah, maybe you know how to use swords so good because you swallow them too. Piggy chuckles at his own joke. Bam. Hawk kicks him in the head for that. Oi stop foo *king around. Sigh, this life is so troublesome. Complains Piggy. I wish I was born as some super wealth, so then the biggest worry in life would be how to spend generations of wealth in just one lifetime. Hey. Hawk crouches down and smiles at him. Don't worry, I will complete your wish. Piggy looks at him confused at first but then smiles. Nah, no need to trouble yourself with that. Don't worry, I won't die in this expedition, claims Hawk, you should know just how strong I am, so I will be able to complete your wish. Hawk, MC, POV. Being called Hawk became as familiar as water almost instantly. I need to get used to the changing of names as I go from one life to the other now. Also, I have one mission for coming to this place. I have already done everything that I have needed to do, so even if this body dies, it doesn't matter. So while I train Piggy, I act like I didn't notice a 3-eyed raven staring at me from atop a tower. This place is as dangerous as it could be, I am too close to my target. He is more familiar with this place than me, so he mustn't know what I am planning to do. 2 days later and a group of around 10 people assembled. I am a part of it, so is Snake and Piggy. I am the leader of the team, I paid some people high in the high spots a lot of silver for this. Of course, the commander was out of the question, but others can easily be bribed. There is no problem money can't solve, and if there is one, it just means that you haven't thrown enough money at it, or haven't thrown it the right way. I have a vial of wildfire close to my cock. I don't think I should keep it there. But I don't know any other good place to hide it from the eyes of the others. Also, I made it before coming here since the ingredients to make it are not able to be found so far north. So I had to get a pre-made one. My hawk has been scouting before us and has seen that a dozen or so wildlings have been tailing us for a while. Damn, this is bad. I don't care if some or all of the people with me die. But would I be able to go where I want to without their help? I have magic and am ready to give away all of the lifespans in this body to go through, but one good arrow to the head will kill. I am not invincible, 10 good men used to fighting in the snow could kill me in an ambush. I should have brought some dynamites, but I don't know where I could even hide those. Still, I have command over these men so I give the order. Split up, we are being followed. Everyone else is confused at this, but I signal them to not turn around. Don't turn around, trust in my eyesight for this one. You wouldn't be able to see them anyway. Everyone nervously nodded, even the veterans. This isn't a game in which they can get alive, they either win or die, so everyone is afraid of death, except me. So I look at them all and pick the ones who I know can fight well. Leaving Piggy and the rest walk forward. You walk forward at a slower pace till you have now and stop at around that hill. We will ambush these barbarian curs, so don't worry. Anyone tries to do something stupid like running away, I will personally cut off his balls and stuff them down his throat. Am I understood? Yes. Everyone answers in unison. Immediately the men that I have chosen cut off from the rest separate from the group and come with me. I take out my longbow and smirk, this bad boy has been made especially for me, it can fire up to a 180m distance. I see the wildlings approach at about 100m distance. My hawk goes a little low to see how many there are and it is exactly 38 of them. I currently have 72 arrows available, from both my quiver and those of the men currently with me. Fwish. 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 I shoot 12 arrows before the first one can even hit the ground. Pow. 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 They all hit the targets in the head, they aren't even able to put up a fight because of this, they couldn't even react and already 12 of them were killed in an instant. I aimed for their archers, which were only 3 of them, but better safe than sorry. The others looked at Hawk like he was a madman, his shooting rate is crazy. But in his head, he wasn't really satisfied. Once machine guns get invented, what would the use of this archery even be? He didn't care about such simple things like this, in his eyes, the limits of a human's body are clear. They can't outswim a speedboat, outrun a car, fly faster than a plane. Technology is the right way to do things. It is humanity's final evolution. Contemplates Hawk, wanting to bring this world to the modern ages as fast as he can. That way he can start enjoying the good modern life. As he contemplates this, the wildlings run toward them and the men pull out their weapons, ready for a fight, but he is calm. He nonchalantly pulls another 8 arrows and shoots them in rapid fire, his shoulder muscles start to feel the burn a little, but that is nothing new to him. One of the arrows is blocked by the wildling's axe, while the others all hit their targets on the throat, head, or heart. There were only 19 wildlings left, and they were against 10 men. A very clear advantage, but they were still over 70m away from Hawk and his crew. The heavy snow wasn't making it easier to move, plus the snow falling from the sky wasn't making it easier to see the arrows coming either. Usually, this should block someone's vision, but not Hawk's. He can see a frog from kilometers away with his hawk vision. So in the end, with all this, the wildlings finally come to their senses and turn around to run away. Seeing that even at best, by the time they reach the crows, Night's Watchmen, they wouldn't be able to do anything to them. So in a panic, they turned around, only to get shot in the back as they did so. Hawk takes a deep breath at this, white vapor forms in front of his face as he smiles. Seems like they are all down. Yes, this is what he had wanted. This is why he spent decades on archery, a skill that would become useless later on. To him, this is better than being as good as Arthur Dane with a sword. He was considered the best swordsman to ever live, but even he couldn't take over 40 men in such a short time as Hawk did, and if Arthur was here to fight so many wildlings on his own, then only death would be waiting for him. Archery is different, as long as one has arrows, they can take out any enemy, especially Hawk, with his perfect shot that never misses. Daenerys Targaryen could come atop her dragons and he wouldn't be worried one bit. As just one arrow on her pretty face will bring the girl smashing to the ground. Three-eyed raven, I am coming for you. Resolutes Hawk, as he glances at a three-eyed raven flying above him. But the raven also didn't notice the hawk that was flying above it. Chapter 52, Undead Man. I look through the bodies of the people I just killed and see that there is nothing valuable on them except some dried salty meat. Which we took with us. Boss, do you think that we should bury the bodies somewhere? Asks Mark, one of the nameless men that I have taken with me. He has a beak-like nose and a scar that runs atop of his head, leaving a clear line on his dark hair. He is half decent with a sword, and that is all there is about him. Burn them. I give the order, but the man is confused at this. How? We don't have anything flammable in here. Wonders the man. I look at him and shake my head. I will burn them. I have a certain thing that I bought from King's Landing. I take out the small vial of wildfire in my pants and order the men to gather the bodies. I drop a couple of small drops on the bodies and light a small rope candle, throwing it at the wildfire drops. Fwam. Immediately the bodies catch on fire and start burning. This sh*T is good, a couple of kegs of this can burn down a castle. But that is too barbaric of a way to use it, it's better to use it to attack the foundation of the castle. That way, even with just the small vial that I have in me, I could destroy a castle. Let's go, I order my men. Some of them seem perturbed by what I just did. Hey, don't worry, I know how to make this because I used to be an alchemist. As long as you have me around, you ain't saying. Bahaha, ain't I an amazing boss? Ha, yes you are. Says Snake, the one-handed Asian-looking guy. He has opened up to others after so many weeks. After all, in the beginning, he just had his hand chopped off, he wasn't exactly in a mood to talk. But he is a friendly guy once I got to know him. Don't say it sarcastically, Snake, or I will cut off your tongue, I warn him jokingly. Of course, mighty God Emperor. He continues his charade and we laugh at that. The crew's morale is high. We defeated a troop over 4 times our number. Well, I did, but small details don't matter and everyone is happy about this. Anyway, we gotta keep walking, I tell them, knowing that staying too long in one place in enemy territory isn't good. We spend a whole day walking and I gotta say, it's quite exhausting. We all had to stop after hunting some bear and eating it. The journey wasn't as bad as it could have been. We could have met wildlings, or other, much more dangerous creatures. When night came around, it was a constant watch of 15 sleeping while the other 5 are awake keeping watch, with intervals changing every 2 hours. That is when it suddenly starts snowing heavily. I immediately woke up, everyone did. A chill instantly settled over my heart and I wake up my sleeping hawk who has been following us and have it look through its eyes. Instantly it can spot 15 white walkers. This is one of the worst case scenarios that can happen. Plus it's snowing so heavily that even with my vision I can't see anything too far away, and the sh*TTY shack built of branches isn't gonna help us. But it isn't so bad, only 15 of them are manageable. Especially since I know how to deal with them. Still, only I have a weapon that can deal with them. So the men I have with me are at best, only meat shields, and at worst, they will become members of the enemy. I look at Snake and see him shaking in terror. This dark aura, how is it possible? He can sense it. Evil aura? Interesting, very interesting. Still, I decide to think about that later. Everyone, grab your weapons. Everyone does so once I order them, thinking that I have seen something due to my eyesight, even though I haven't. I know that the walkers are coming for us. I have 2 daggers made out of Valyrian steel, I can use one, and the other should be used by someone else. But this isn't it, I need to choose someone who won't panic, because if they panic then we are all *ked. They haven't seen them yet, so everyone except Snake is quite calm. But when the things come, possibly only Snake will be the calmest amongst the others. Giving him a dagger will make him useful while I use the other. But, that thing that he said about aura. Even I, a magic user, can't sense anything of the sort. What is evil aura? I need information on that, I can't have something unexpected pop up in my plans. *K, if I die in this body, it won't matter, I will just make sure to not turn in a zombie and I should take over one of my descendants' bodies. But then I will have to come here and try again to take over, that would suck for me. Since I will have to come back to this place to take care of that one last trouble left. When I rewrite history, there doesn't need to be someone who keeps a record of the real one. My history should start with my first reincarnation, Arthur. I won't mention anything about him being born into the fray, I will just say that he was a common born that rose to power, leaving behind an unfulfilled dream of liberty to his descendants. Damn, I am getting hard just thinking about this. I will be all along with history books, little kids will curse my existence by just how much they will have to remember about me. I am about to create so much annoying history that it will ruin everyone's days during history class. But my thoughts are interrupted as the walkers are finally in view of the other people as well. Shriveled blue skin, as they are just skin and bones, the ice weapons gleaming in the moonlight make the scenario even more terrifying. What the hell are those? Snake still seemed terrified, but he was the only one of the men who could even talk. They were all witnessing the dead coming to life, unlike the modern person which is desensitized to this due to movies and such. To the men, it felt as if their whole world is about to turn over. Their minds couldn't comprehend what was going on. Man, those guys look terrific as hell. You wouldn't see me fighting them if I didn't have backup plans. So in the end, I take out my 2 daggers and rush at the creatures. The first thing that I notice from them is their behavior and movements is that they are too slow. Fwish! By the time I reach the first one, I had already thrown one of my daggers and logged it into its chest, turning the creature into a mist of ice. Before the dagger falls on the ground, I have already caught it. Since I am in their midst now, I immediately can decapitate 2 more. There are 12 left now. Stab! But suddenly I feel pain in my side and I wince. Seeing an ice spear coming from my belly isn't a nice thing. Foo *k, this is as troublesome as it can get. These creatures are too many and have me at a disadvantage, while the men are useless and the best they can do is not turn into more zombies for me to deal with. I use my Valyrian dagger to cut the spear's handle, but I keep the spear in me. That way I won't bleed out. I see the ice zombies start to form a circle around me, and I can't help but smirk. You know, this body is nice. I take my daggers in a reverse grip. Fwoosh! Instantly, another 4 ice zombies are nicked by the Valyrian steel daggers, they then burst into ice. But the other IE zombies are not quiet and they throw their spears at me. But that is when I see that I would die. I decided to use magic. Snow barrier. Fwoosh! The snow around me moves like it has a mind of its own and forms a tornado around me. Due to the youth of this body, I don't even feel the strain on the lifespan. The ice zombies thought it smart to throw their spears since I wouldn't be able to dodge, but now I block them and they have lost their weapons. I smile at that, as I immediately take this confusion of theirs in stride and just cut them all slightly with my daggers. Having them all burst into ice. Monster! Is what one of the men said while he looked at me. Chapter 53, Blood Emperor. Monster. One of the men calls me out. Fuke them, I just got stabbed and this is what they say. Shitty people all around, damn, I am angry due to the pain of being stabbed. Okay, I must calm down now. That way I can make the best logical conclusion, I must finish my mission in this body. I can't ruin everything due to my emotions. I must control them. That is when a deathly calmness settles over my body. There is no need to be mad at soon-to-be-dead men. There is no use at that. I can use these emotions though. Guys, the fuck you, I just got stabbed and that is all you fucks care about. I act like I am angry, trying to make myself seem weak. This way they shouldn't fear the unknown, so to say. But they all have their weapons out and pointed at me. Stop there, monster! Yells out Snake. Oh, you bastard, I am gonna rip your guts out as soon as I get the chance. But I keep a calm demeanor at this since I need to. That is when my hawk flies above their heads, they don't notice anything, even as my lovely bird drops a bomb full of invisible knockout gas. The hell is that smell? Asks Snake, looking around. But in the end, he looks at me again. I don't show any emotion except nervousness, which I should be feeling since I need to appear weak in front of them. It doesn't take long for them to start dropping on the ground like flies. Fuck. Piggy swears as he is the last to fall, his big size needed to inhale a little more to knock his ass out. Damn them, after all their talk, they made me waste one of my secret weapons to deal with living beings. Sadly poison doesn't work against night walkers, so I am stuck there. Also, I wasn't good enough to know how to make some gunpowder or chemical weapons. I could use my hawk as a plane to drop down chemical weapons. Ah, how unfair life is. If only I was a chemist or something similar in my first life, I would have dominated this world. Still, I go towards the unconscious bodies and put them in a hexagon formation, slit their wrists and start the ritual. Muttering the spell under my breath. I had left the Asian guy outside of it though, since I have some questions for him. Immediately the bodies start spasming and get up. They open their eyes, which are blood red, and their backs are slouched like an old man, drool coming out of their mouths too. They were no longer the men that I knew. Set up a tent, I order them, and immediately they start following my order sluggishly. Well, they were made as zombies for combat, so yet. I got this little spell from the tomb of the Blood Emperor that used to live in Essos thousands of years ago. He is someone considered as one of the top magic users in history, and unlike now, back then magic was really developed. The Blood Emperor was still the best magic user of his time. Sadly now it is not even a quarter of what it used to be. It just means that magic is getting outdated and people are figuring out how to do things more efficiently. I wanted to try being a good guy for one, it was quite fun. But sadly that didn't work for me, maybe next time? After this I will again try to be a good person, since then I hopefully won't have a three-eyed bird looking at me from an unknown place. I quite enjoyed the atmosphere when I was a good guy. It takes around 10 minutes for them to build a tent, and I have them keep guard outside as I put Snake inside the tent, tie him up and take out some knives and boil some water to keep them clean. Finally, when he wakes up, he looks around confused, before his eyes settle on me and a frightened look appears on his face once he sees me washing my hunting knives. Hawk, listen, whatever you need of me, I will do it, man. No need to get so serious, I will forget everything I saw, I will leave Westeros altogether. He pleads with me surprisingly calmly. I suspect that he is trying to buy some time. But for what? Better be safe. Pow! I hit him to the side of the neck, knocking him out instantly. After that, I check around and see that the shitbag had twisted his one wrist and gotten it out of the socket. He would have been able to get out if I didn't knock out this guy. Thankfully I had the ropes tied up tight so even with an out-of-socket wrist he wouldn't be able to escape so easily. Slap! I wake him up again by slapping his face. Next time you try something like that again, then I will cut off your one hand left, okay? I can't cut his hand yet because he might lose hope in life. After all, in a medieval time with no hands, it doesn't spell good for anyone. So he gotta have that hope that getting out of this alive is actually worth it. Understand? I ask while slapping him again. Why yet? He uttered. I nod at that, and take a knife, pointing it at his penis. Okay, now we will start talking. Tell me about the aura that you were talking about. Before you answer, think if it is worth lying to me about this. Well, it is more of a breathing method and it is a saying in my country too. Fwish. I slash his throat, blood starts seeping out instantly, the life drained out of him. I don't have the time for his bullshit lies right now. I am in a hurry here. We'll have to figure this out later then. I go outside of the tent and order my zombies. Let's get out of here, follow me. 18 hours pass as I brave through the snow, even during storms I try to make some ground. The zombies can walk without getting tired anyway, so I have some of them carry me most of the time. Though since it isn't combat, they aren't as fast. Suddenly I get a notification from my hawk that a bear is charging us from the east. Zombies, go rip it apart. Immediately as I say that all the zombies turn towards the bear and get on their fours. Growl. They all growl like animals and start charging at the bear. Though with initial difficulty, they use their body weights to slam into the bear, having the furry creature fall on its back, and then the now zombified piggy puts his sword through the bear's mouth, instantly killing it. That fucker was as cowardly as they could be when he was alive, but now that he is a zombie he is showing the advantages a big body can have. Just by using his weight, he can topple even the strongest animals. Let's move on. It doesn't take even an hour later and finally, we can see a small keep-like building covered in twigs and snow. This is Castor's Keep, the only place where people of the Night's Watch can get information and rest. I pull out my sword and order my men to do the same. Let's take over this shit. Chapter 54, Pre-Blood War. Castor is in his little keep, with his daughter wives. Bam! Suddenly, the doors are opened and men with red eyes barge in. Hawk is also in the middle of them, he looks around coldly. Kill them all, man, woman, child or elderly. Growling the men growl like animals, and with speed that should be something inhuman, they charge at Castor. The man is panicked and as he looks at the Night's Watch clothes he panicky exclaims. Stop it! I have an alliance with the Night's Watch. Fwish! His head flies off as the zombies jump around like agile animals, cutting any living thing in their way. The women have no weapons so they can't fight back. Still, I slit their throats all the same. I don't need to have to look over my back and worry if one of these broads spoke or something. Night came about and lots of people had been laid down. Today was a full moon, perfect to restore my life fire. There were many sacrifices today, amongst them children and virgins so that only was even more beneficial in the ritual. A hexagon symbol is drawn on the ground from their blood as their bodies are piled up in the middle of it, with that I do a couple of hand signs and mutter a curse under my breath. Immediately a red miasma forms and forms a vengeful ghost with many crying faces all around it. Slowly it floats in my body and I feel fully energized like never before. This kind of magic was normally considered forbidden and dark, after all, it sacrificed people. But in my eyes, they were going to die anyway, leaving them behind would just be a waste. The dead bodies dried up as if all their nutrients were sucked out and became zombie-looking. Wait, couldn't I just turn them into zombies too? That would be helpful, though since most are females and children, it won't make for good fighting zombies. Maybe suppliers? Walking in this snow is horrendous, so having them carry me would be better. After all, I am planning to kill the three-eyed raven, going there tired wouldn't be logical. Three-eyed raven POV. Looking at the cruel young man I can't help but think how could someone like him turn out to become just like his father. Cruel and vicious, I had been able to whisper on the other child's mind and convince him to kill his father. If I had known that this one would turn out like this, then I would have gotten rid of it too. He just killed babies of not even 2 days old. Then used them in such a foul ritual that not even their souls would ever be able to escape for eternity. This was beyond cruel of what any physical torture could be. Their souls will be in eternal pain. Mister, should we prepare some traps? A green humanoid creature comes and asks me with their unsure voices. The roots that have pierced my body hurt as I looked at them. This pain has gotten dulled due to the countless years I have spent in this place, now I just need to wait for my successor and this will have been all worth it. Yes, prepare some traps just in case. The lethal kind too. There was no way the kid knew where I was, but his father had always been strange so I can't ever be too sure. This son of his was in Essos too and learned some of that foul blood magic. As if to mock me, I felt another raven sent to observe the young man get killed by a hawk. The same hawk that his father had, even from beyond the grave, Arthur Frey still causes me trouble. As long as it is seen, the future no longer becomes an absolute but changes into an alternative. The man changed so much. Everything was so different. Damn it. Couldn't that imbecile see how the world should go? We will all be damned if the dragon doesn't have 3 heads to take. The prophecy must go on, he can't ruin everything like this even beyond his grave. His offspring are all anomalies. That fucking monster. General POV. The 3-eyed raven cursed Arthur even on his grave. Because the man single-handedly had ruined his plans without even trying to. He knew best just how fickle prophecies could be. One small action against them could change it and it was up to him to keep the ones that saved humanity at all costs. One small child will not ruin my plans. Especially not an evil one like it. The 3-eyed raven resolved himself as his eyes turned white. Oliver looked at the small group of around 50 blood zombies and smirked. He could see how the Blood Emperor was feared back in his day. This spell could be used even on people who have lost their life fire after the absorption ceremony. It created a cycle of being able to replenish his lifespan with the dead and then create now zombies. Normal people wouldn't try something like this, so this at least made Oliver glad that he wasn't born at the time when this crazy person was alive thousands of years ago. Not even a couple of days later and it was clear that Oliver was going for the 3-eyed raven's hideout. So the ancient man prepared against Oliver, who had been killing some wildlings on his way to create even more blood zombies. By now he had over 500. The children of the forest looked at this fearfully from the top of their great weirwood tree. Though their faces usually didn't show any emotion, as 1,000-year-old creatures they were rarely afraid. But this was a different situation. Looking at the army of zombies felt like staring down death. The growls of the dead creatures and their hot blood melted the snow as it dripped down. It felt like the heat was radiating out of them even in the deadly cold of the north. Oliver on the other hand was in a carriage drawn by some zombie bears. He looked at the children of the forest amused. His hawk-like vision allowed him to see even the fear in their faces. He had gotten prepared as much as he could for the soon-to-come battle. But something surprised him. The children of the forest were full of life fire, something that isn't normal since not only are they thousands of years old but also use magic. One mad idea came into Oliver's head. Can the children of the forest regenerate their life fire, lifespan, naturally even after using spells? The idea was something that magic users all over Essos had tried to solve. Looking at the possible solution in front of him, Oliver no longer even cared for the old raven. He licked his lips in greed and ordered his zombies. Try and get me some of those little green fuckers alive. The zombies groaned in confirmation, and sensing the approaching battle, the fighting zombies crouched down and started running like animals. Oliver pulled out a Valyrian steel dagger and called over one of his giant and muscular-bodied blood zombie and dug the knife on the creature's chest. May death set you apart, said Oliver simply as the zombie fell on the ground. The knife fell with it and the weapon dug deeper into the flesh of the dead zombies as it had a mind of its own. Valyrian steel is really something when combined with magic from the same era. The zombies rose up, its skin now red, the body's muscles moved below its skin like worms and the creature's eyes were fully red. Go, boy, Oliver ordered the creature like one would a dog. The zombie's muscles wriggled towards its legs, tripling the muscles of the legs while its upper body became skin and bones. The creature started running like a cheetah. Even the snow didn't seem to interrupt its speed. The MC is good when it suits him, and it's obvious that if it gets in his way he could easily discard. He likes helping others, but up to point. Also these blood zombies have a glaring weakness too, just like the Night Walkers, except bigger. P.S. Though never mentioned in the show, in the books the Blood Emperor was an actual figure. So some of the spells the MC uses have an actual basis in canon. Chapter 55, Ruthlessly Efficient. Warning, this MC is pretty hardcore, so, be warned, he mentions of doing some things, so read with caution. The Three-Eyed Crow, or as he was used to being called a long time ago, Brynden Rivers. He looked at the battle, if it could be even called that, as Oliver destroyed the children of the forest easily, but he didn't kill them, he only cut off their legs and cremated the wounded areas to stop the blood loss. Ruthless, just as the Three-Eyed Raven had expected. He knew that the man would be nothing less than terrifyingly efficient. By now he understood what was going on, but it was too late. He wanted to send visions or ravens out to spread the secret of the possessed man in front of him, but while the man was something Three-Eyed Raven considered evil, Oliver wasn't stupid. The first ones to be killed were his ravens, and the old man couldn't send any more visions out at the moment. There simply aren't enough green seers that would take it seriously. Even if they did, they were all wildlings. None of them could contend with the man in front of him. Still, the old man, at his final hours, knew that Oliver wouldn't give him an easy death. So he said the one thing that he had come to regret. The young man had nothing to do with it. Oliver's silver hair fluttered in the wind as he walked. What are you talking about? Your other son. The one who killed you in your previous body. I was the one who manipulated him in. Shut up, old man, you are boring me with your speeches. Oliver interrupted him. I don't care about any of that, it doesn't change what I am gonna do to you right now and what I am gonna do to that bastard. He is no son of mine, he might be mine by blood, but, hope the gods have mercy on him, because I sure won't. He is your son. How can you be such a monster? Hey man, I ain't the one who manipulated a kid to kill his father. That's all on you, buddy. I mean, I am on a whole redemption thing here. After I torture the sh*t out of you and kill my son, I am gonna try and do better. Men like you know no better. As soon as the easy solution comes around, you take it. Wow, you are such a tryhard, Oliver shrugged. Look where that got you, old man, strapped to a tree, and your half-sister lover, what was her name again? Oh yeah, Shira Seastar, many stories going around about her, and how good she was between the legs. The legends say that she would spread her legs even for horses, and of course, she liked your jealousy. Did she make you watch while she got foo***ed by other men? Did she? The old man gritted his teeth at that. How this man knew about this he had no idea, but the way he spoke showed just how elusive he could be. And now, I can't even torture you for information before knowing this. What if you die accidentally? I will spend my life always wondering if Shira Seastar was into some kinky stuff. Oliver was insisting on this. He needed to break the old man not only physically, but mentally. He wanted to know some things before he killed the man. It would be a shame if knowledge on how to hatch dragon eggs or make things like Valyrian steel was lost. Well, it will be lost since I don't want others to know about this, but it will live on with me. Kill me! Yelled out the Blue Draven, already having given up to his inevitable fate. Whoa man, sorry if I hurt your feelings, bro. I can be very curious sometimes. Oliver put a hand on the man's shoulder, and only then did he notice that he was touching crumbling bones. You are an old man, like so old that it makes even some of the House of Undying folk seem young. Kill me! Bloodraven's pleas went to deaf wars as Oliver continued his rant. He took out a knife and pointed it at some of the children of the forest who had passed out from the pain of having their legs cut off and their wounds shut off. Though amongst them, there were dead of their kind, they were mostly male. You see those green pretty goblin creatures? I am gonna have my way with them so I can birth a child that will make a strong body for me. One so good that it will be able to handle all the future winters, and the Night King too. Oliver wanted to break the man down, but at the same time attempted to build the old man up, give him hope for the future. Show him that even though he wasn't the best man out there, he could be the only one willing to do anything to survive. He could be the hope everyone needed. Of course, that didn't work when Blue Draven attempted to spit on him, only to be blocked by a sword. Damn, I love this body's instincts. Oliver was not offended by the action and more impressed at his body as it acted on instinct to protect itself. He then casually slashed the old man's throat, knowing he wouldn't talk. After all, the man couldn't even feel anything on his body by now. He did crush his shoulder accidentally and there was no reaction. Had to try to at least mentally convince him. Oliver then looked at the unconscious green people on the ground. He didn't like R***P, but that was what he was going to have to do. Why? Because he liked himself more than some rules of an old world that would get him killed now. In his eyes, anyone else who wasn't him, their life was worth about as much as an animal, maybe even less sometimes, since if he ate the meat of the animal then he would be sure that he won't get sick. Animal diseases don't transfer to humans that well. Anyway, he shook his head with a little regret that he was unable to get the knowledge of the old raven. But he knew that staying here anymore would be suicide, and this time it was the permanent death kind. Though his soul can transfer to a new body of his descendants, becoming an ice zombie will trap his soul and kill him eventually, whether by someone else or when the Night King dies. But as he looked at the children of the forest's bodies, he frowned. There was one thing he had been wondering for a while. Why were there no younger people amongst them? He knew that the children of the forest mated like humans, some northerners were even said to have their blood in them, and that was why some were able to use the children's magic. But why? Why were there no youngsters amongst them? Each of them is over 1,000 years old. These thoughts kept running around his head and it made him almost want to throw up. Not because of any gruesome detail, but because he had just wasted his time. Every one of these children of the forest was barren, they couldn't make offsprings. He went and cut them open just to make sure, and he was proven correct. Damn, I even wasted time cutting their legs. Now I look like a fool. TCH, whatever, at least I had to try. There will be no more what-ifs around the situation. Oliver had to console himself, he wasted a lot of effort to keep these creatures alive. Thinking that they somehow were able to naturally regenerate their mana/life-fire/lifespan, he wanted that ability in his bloodline. It would fix so many problems he had. Sheesh, I need to get out of here, if I was Bloodraven, notifying any Nightwalker if my position would be the first thing I would do to kill someone who is a threat to the world. Anyway, I gotta pick one of these goblin-looking freaks to try and have them teach me their brand of magic after they wake up. He then played a guessing game and picked one of them over his shoulder and burned the rest of the bodies. After that, he ordered his zombies to escort him to a prepared boat that he had hidden here over 3 years ago. He can't go back through the wall or he will be killed as a wildling. I think returning home is a must for me. This world is miserable as it is, but having servants around me helps. Plus I gotta get myself back in the game. Chapter 56, Kinslaying. Gerald POV. Regret, that was what came over me, ever since the day I killed my father. I have felt this empty hole in my heart. My father, Arthur Redhawk, founder of the Redhawk family which ruled over the city of London and Carclaw Point. We were one of the richest families in the world, and only after becoming head of the family, I learned that we pretty much owned the Iron Bank. Once I learned of that, my decision to invest in some endeavors was unwise. It cost me 7 million gold dragons, something that was quite hefty even for me. But since then I have learned my lesson. I don't know how my father did all of this in one generation, maybe if he had lived more, the family would have grown stronger. Sadly, I will never know. At the time I thought that stabbing him and throwing his body in the water would be perfect. After all, even the guards who helped me do the deed came to me to offer help by themselves, as they too had the same visions. I thought it was a sign from the gods. After all, something like this couldn't be explained by normal logic. But as soon as I stabbed that knife in my father's back, I knew the mistake I had made. The look of betrayal that he gave me before he fell in the unforgiving waters. That still haunts me to this day. Looking around at the fine embroidery in my office, I wanted it all stripped away. Father never had such luxury when the office was his. I thought that I would be happy now, but that wasn't the case. My dreams are haunted by nightmares, my days are filled with regret. Every time one of my siblings looked at me, it felt like my father's eyes filled with a sense of betrayal as his own son had stabbed him in the back. How so very regrettable, even his brother Oliver had left him. His sweet brother, he might seem a little rough around the edges, but Oliver had always been the best older brother one could hope for. After all, he did give up being the family head for me. The only bad member in this family was me. Even father was good to all of us. Damn, why did I have to do something like that? For the rest of my life, this will haunt me. I took a wine glass in my grasp, it was filled with water, and as I went to drink it, I saw my reflection on the water. Suddenly my eyes in the reflection turned red and my face morphed into that of my father. Ah! I yelled out in fear, smashing the glass on the ground. Is something wrong? Suddenly my mother came in. She used to be but a simple maid, but now as my mother, her status had risen to the lady of House Redhawk. She had long dark hair and green eyes. Even at her age, she looked good. And nothing, mother. I tried to reassure her, but my shaking hands and the sweat on my face seemed to give away my true mental state. Why are you here? She still seemed worried but decided to leave it for later as she smiled. Your brother Oliver is here. He just returned from his journey in Essos. Is that so? Though I tried to act nonchalant, a small smile greeted my face. I always had a soft spot for Oliver, even amongst us siblings he was always such a lovable fool. Yes, he is coming straight here. Mother said excitedly. As if on cue, the door opened and my brother entered through. His short silver hair shined and the smile on Oliver's face seemed all too familiar. Well, hello there my baby brother, how are you doing? Mother went to greet him too with a kind look on her face. She never hated any of my siblings, even though they were all by different women that father had slept with. I see that you are doing good, Oliver. Healthy as always, I hope. Yep, said Oliver, before he picked up a knife and stabbed my mother under her chin. The knife's tip exuded out of the top of her head. What? Is this a dream? Hallucination? Visions? They always seemed so real. Yeah, this must be a vision. Brother pulled the knife out of my mother's head, her body slumped on the ground, and came towards me with her blood still dripping from his hands. The smile on Oliver's face seemed like he did nothing wrong and just came to greet me. Fwish! A feeling of pain hits my throat as something hot overflows from it. I grasp at my throat and see the blood on my hands. Ah! I get it, my throat just got cut by Oliver. Oliver POV. I just casually started wiping away the blood with a red cloth. Gerald's body plummeted down on the ground and he bled on the floor, just like his mother. Sadly, I had to kill the maid. She was always good at giving blowjobs under the table. But sadly, she was useless when I was in this body, plus she was getting kinda old and her beauty wasn't what it used to be. Looking down at my son Gerald, there was still that shocked look in his eyes. Weird, I thought he would at least go and try to grab his sword after I skewered his mother. Was he in shock? Damn, I have never seen someone die like that before. I mean, he saw me with the bloody knife after killing his mother, yet he didn't react. Probably was in some kind of delusion. Whatever, that's a thought for another time. Guards! I called out, and immediately the room was flooded with over a dozen of them, all wearing green armor uniforms with a red hawk painted on them. I pointed at the 2 dead bodies. My brother got sick and died, his mother killed herself in grief after that. Understood. Yes sir. They yelled out in unison. I had already paid them quite a bit of gold and bribed them. It seemed like Gerald got quite careless after he killed me that day. Anyway, he is my brother now, not my son. Have to make sure I don't spill that in front of someone else. Cut up the bodies in little pieces and burn them. Empty coffins will be held for the funeral since their appearances were too grotesque from the sickness and suicide. I gave away the instructions to them and they immediately started carrying out the orders. I will kill these guys too, after all, gold can only buy their loyalty so much, a bolt to the heart would buy it forever. Some secrets are better kept hidden like that. 2 hours later and I had everything in place, also had to kill the maester as he had caught whatever sickness was plaguing Gerald whole he had tried to heal him. So with a small donation to the Citadel, and in the foreseeable future, everything should be back in place. Gerald wasn't a good leader, but at least he wasn't bad enough to lose over 8 million gold dragons, he only lost 7 million. Anyway, time to start playing the game again. Chapter 57, Return to Governance. Going back to my lordly duties was very easy. Ruling this small land of mine was easy in general, especially since I have had all of the lords who were under and not loyal have accidents where their families all died, from young children to the lords of the houses. I thought back on what the old raven had told me, of how I will always result in killing because if that was the easier way to deal with a problem. Well, he was right, I guess only after the modern age comes around can I go back to watching movies and chilling as a good guy. But here, this time, I have to be a cutthroat man. My ambition is simply too high to not be so. Anyway, it seemed like my now dead son hadn't been good. Well, he wasn't bad, but he hadn't been good either. He had tried to be like me, but he didn't have future knowledge so he failed miserably and lost 7 million gold dragons. His idea was to have some maesters come up with some faster moving ships. Yeah, things like that don't just appear out of nowhere, he was acting without knowledge. I could tell the maesters to build me gunpowder, which I never would, and even if I described its properties, it would still take decades before any progress was made, even with the best minds in Westros working on it. So yeah, kinda dumb for my son to expect men with knowledge to spew things out magically. What a dumbass, I would question if he was even my son with this dead brain kind of behavior, but then I remembered that technically he was related to the Frey, so yeah. Currently I had access to a little over 13 million gold dragons, meaning I had the ability to use them whenever I wanted. Of course my net worth might be over 50 million, but none of that mattered at the moment. Currently my claw point was one of the best regions to live in Westros, that was the problem, it was one of the best when it needs to be the best. Still, there were many matters to take care of, marriages, see if anyone under me had gotten some bravery after my death, slit some throats here and there, set that house of white and black in flames. Knock knock. My lord, may I come in? Once I heard the familiar voice a smile came to my face. Of course, Sir Davos Seaworth, I called on the man, the one which I probably trusted the most amongst my troops, my father trusted your counsel. But your brother didn't, stated the man grimly as he entered. Unlike the flea-bottom looking man, now he had a well-trimmed white beard and grey hair, showing some signs of boldness. But still, he looked like a lord, even though his clothes favored practicality over looks, anyone could tell they were expensive. My brother was a fool, and he died like one. I told him, making the man's brows raise in shock, and he couldn't school his face back to calmness once he heard that. I knew the rumors going around, after all, as soon as I came home my mother and brother died, coincidentally putting me in the line of succession. It was too convenient, anyone with half a brain could see that. Most think of me a kinslayer, of course the lords do at least. The peasants couldn't care less, as long as they are fed, are busy with good work and entertainment, then they won't care. Lord, Davos' commoner accent slips through, I wouldn't say something like that out loud. Of course you wouldn't, and shouldn't either, I said with confidence, but I trust you Lord Seaworth. My father used to say that you were his most trusted man, behind doors of course, wouldn't want any silly lord taking that as an insult to their foolish pride. At the mention of my previous life, Davos' eyes turned melancholic. Damn, he really cared about my past life as Arthur. Or I guess this body's father, now I just need to make him care the same way about me. Davos. Davos looked at the young man and didn't know what to make of him, he was a mystery to everyone, just like Arthur had been a damn mystery. No one ever knew what he was thinking, but they knew that as long as his orders were followed then good things would happen to those on his side. He was like a lucky charm. He felt his eyes grow a little misty at the mention of the man. But Davos held himself, it wouldn't do for a knight to cry in front of his lord. But looking at Lord Oliver, he couldn't help but feel a small smile appear on his face. He is his father's son after all. Already the same vibe Arthur had encompasses young Oliver. Just talking to Oliver made him feel at ease, even the scandalous words he spoke seemed like honey sipped out of them. Making someone feel like their trust on them was immense, and that was how Davos felt. He had followed a man like this before, and it led him to fortune and a good friend. Anyway, Sir Davos, I have told you all of my secrets. Ones that could have my head chopped off or sent to the walls. Said Oliver full of confidence, making Davos feel like the man was looming over him even though he was sitting down. My father trusted you with his life, I want to do the same. Will you serve me, Sir Davos, like you served my father? The Sea Knight smirked. The answer was obvious to him all along. As the big silver-haired figure in front of him was replaced by a gout man with dark eyes and a knowing smirk. Ah, my old friend, it seems like my days won't be filled with sadness of your death anymore. This time, I won't let your legacy die before its duty has been fulfilled. It didn't take long for Davos to see just how uncanny the resemblance between father and son was. Because except for Arthur's dark eyes, every other part spoke of Oliver's Valyrian descent. While the boy's father wouldn't be considered someone ugly, he couldn't be called pretty either, just average or slightly above that at best. But Oliver was different, his Valyrian looks gave him an exotic appearance, his good-looking face and big body would tempt any whore in Flea Bottom, at least that was what Davos could get out of this. They drove next to each other, and Oliver was wearing some colorful lordly clothes with well-crafted chainmail armor below it. They rode on horses with no guards around them. Davos doubted that they needed something like that when he saw the sword on the young lord's back, it seemed more like a slab of metal than a sword. But he wouldn't make a judgment so soon. After all, his job is to serve, not question every small thing his friend's son did. Still, they reached the dock and talked about ships and new ideas for ships. Davos immediately noticed how Oliver was trying to hide something and was using an old tactic that Arthur used against spies, bore them to death. They are human too, and without important information then they will leave. Okay Davos, I want you to go to Dorne and deliver a letter for me. No, not deliver. I want you to smuggle it in. Officially you will be going to Braavos for business, and will be paid accordingly, but I want this out of everyone's eyes. Can you do this for me, my good man? Davos spout. Of course my lord. And just like so, Sir Davos Seaworth left for Braavos with none being the wiser. Even Oliver was quite satisfied with his work. They even did everything publicly as there was nothing to hide here. Chapter 58, Dorne. Davos. Sailing to Dorne hadn't been too hard for a man like Davos, even while doing so undetected. After all, it was no secret that he was a smuggler and he had to be pretty damn good at it to get a knighthood out of it. Davos no longer sailed for money. Hell, Arthur, God's bless his soul, the seaman gave a prayer to his old friend. He had fixed everything and now Seaworth was a minor house in the House Redhawk's territory, but he had so much money that even lords with hundreds of years of family history don't have those riches. Damn, if only Arthur was alive, his dream would have continued. Small folk would never have to fear again, everyone will have equal opportunity. Ah, old friend, one day we will meet in the afterlife. But not before I too do my own duty. Seaworth found himself thinking too many times about his old friend as of lately, especially since his son Oliver was so much like his father, if not in appearance then in actions. It took Davos almost 2 weeks to reach Dorne, mostly because a backstorm had hit the ship, and the vessel he was using was manned by sailors with experience in only trade. Since merchants weren't exactly known to sail that well, it wasn't uncommon for Davos to feel like yelling orders at some of the men who were making amateur mistakes. But he held his tongue, as not even the ship's captain knew about who he really was and what his job in Dorne would be. The ex-smuggler looked at the letter in his hand. Many times he had been tempted to open and read it during the journey. Well, the letter didn't have its seal broken, but one could easily get past things like that. Still, he resisted the urge. After all, breaking Oliver's trust wouldn't be a wise idea. Also, he was already at his destination. Sunspear was quite the sight. While the city itself was nowhere near the House Redhawk's London city, it still showed a different culture to it. Because while London seemed to be the city of perfection at day, with mothers and children happily smiling while men mostly work, at night, it became a city of darkness, whores, assassins, smuggling and much more. This of course was all allowed by the Redhawk family as long as they were paid tax on it and nothing too extreme went on like human trafficking or enslaving. Well, what might have brought the Onion Knight all the way to Dorne, when he should be in Braavos? A whisper-like voice came. Davos immediately turned around and saw a man he was familiar with. He knew the man only by reputation, but the reputation was fearsome. Oberyn Martell, the Red Viper, his spear was in his hands as he stared down the Onion Knight. I think that my brother would like to meet someone like you. Especially when you sneak around here, like a snake. Sadly for you, snakes have quite a hard time sneaking up on each other. Prince Oberyn, Davos bowed slightly to show respect, I am here for my lord's business. Though since I was going to meet up with your brother either way, then I wouldn't mind having a prince escorting me. It's quite the honor. Oberyn smirked, though the friendly gesture didn't quite reach his eyes. Come along now, I wouldn't want someone of your caliber being killed in Sun's Pair. This Lord Oliver seems to be a lot like his father, and the late Arthur Redhawk was known for one thing here in Dorne, and that was just how cruel he could be. That man's mind always seemed to work 100 steps ahead of others, and of course, his cruelty was also unmatched by any other. Seaworth could hear the small quips made at the dead Arthur, his fist tightened till his knuckles became pale white. But he still held his words. After all, he couldn't go and punch a Prince of Dorne on the face. Prince Oberyn, I find it quite out of taste to say things about dead men who can't even refute them. The Red Viper nodded. Sorry about that, no insults were meant. It was just the curiosity of an exiled prince. You don't seem to be exiled, Prince Oberyn, Davos inquired. Why might that be? Oh, you know, Sir Davos, some problems popped up so I had to come back. The Viper's reply seemed very informative, but it wasn't. Though the Onion Knight did notice that the prince had started calling him Sir and seemed to recognize him as a knight. By the way, you should try some brothels in Dorne, here are the best establishments in all the 7 kingdoms. Maybe after all business is done, my paramour Elaria and I could accompany you too. Thank you for the offer, Prince Oberyn. Davos felt very awkward at this, and thought on what to say to not offend the brother of Dorne's ruler. But I am a married man now, and wouldn't like to betray the vows I made to my wife. Oberyn nodded and they walked in silence, and Davos felt like he had just offended the prince but didn't know how. Damn, politics just aren't my thing. He complained inwardly, while trying to read the situation and recall if he had said anything offensive. If Oberyn had been fierce and a hothead, Doran was exactly the opposite. They were a good guest room, with guards all around them, and Oberyn sat to the side sipping on a cup of wine while Doran and Davos sat opposite of each other. The Prince of Dorne took the letter that the Onion Knight had intended for him, and as he read through, his jaw clenched. Tell Lord Oliver that there will need to be further discussion on this. Davos nodded. I see. He noticed the tense atmosphere. Then excuse me, Prince Doran, Prince Oberyn, but I will have to report this to Lord Oliver. That was when all of the guards pulled out their spears and aimed them at Davos. Doran had a calm look on his face, no emotion was apparent on him. You will tell him, Sir Davos, when he comes to Dorne to get you. He then threw the letter that he got to Oberyn and told him to burn the letter as soon as he could. Prince Doran, I don't think Lord Oliver would risk his life for a simple man born in Flea Bottom. Davos tried to plead his case. Don't worry, Sir Davos, Prince Doran reassured the man, we won't harm you. Nor will we torture you for information, which is one of the decreased Lord Arthur's closest confidants. You must know quite a lot of secrets. But don't worry, none of that will happen to you. Because we only want Lord Oliver to come here and confirm some things. The Onion Knight nodded absent-mindedly, his eyes worried as he looked around. For him, the promises of a Dornishman were about as worth as empty air. Chapter 59, Confusion. Arianne Martell. There were a lot of things that she was, Princess of Dorne, possibly the successor of this place too. But she was sure that there was one thing she wasn't, and that was, free. Arianne considered herself a caged bird. True, her owners were nice and gave her everything. But at the end of the day, she was but a bird. Her father would never allow her to be anything more than that. Doran Martell was many things, but a good father he wasn't. Flaunting many men twice or more her age, willing to sell her like a common whore if it benefited the family. Recently though, one of her cousins, Obara Sand, had told her that her father had captured someone from House Redhawk, some servant. The details weren't clear, but the Lord of House Redhawk will be coming, possibly. Since many rumors were going around, the situation was very unclear and there might be no prisoner at all. Still, as Arianne walked along the halls of the castle, she felt a sense of elation blossom in her. She went to her father's office and entered without knocking. Once inside, Doran looked at his daughter and his eyes narrowed, an unknown feeling rising inside of him. Father, I heard that you captured some prisoners from the Redhawks. She said, full of confidence, is it true? Yes, he answered simply, though I would advise that you shouldn't go outside for some time. The rumors that have been spreading around about you aren't nice, I know they aren't true, yet. But still, you must keep your maidenhood intact. So what? She asked in anger, just so I can give it to some old man. That will never happen, father. With that declaration, she walked off, but not before two guards grabbed her. Let me go. She yelled, but the men didn't bother and nodded in acknowledgement towards Doran, who looked like he had aged a whole decade in the last couple of days. Arianne, you must stay in the tower. If this Oliver is anything like his father, you will be one of his targets. Don't sneak out or anything of the like, and I am not telling this to exert control over you, but the reality is cruel, and if you were to be captured, only the worst kind of things will happen to you until I release Davos. Explained Doran, before silently gesturing to the guards to take her away. Arianne gave up on her plans to undermine her father, at least for a time, because once she saw the look on his face, she knew that something had happened. Something that had terrified her father. The last time he had looked like that was when news had come to drone about Eli's rape and her children's deaths. Well, I guess spending so much time in a tower, well, it could be worse, and a couple of months up there wouldn't be anything special. She thought as the guards suddenly changed direction, not towards her tower. Her heartbeat fastened once she saw that. Where are you taking me? The guards didn't answer and just dragged her away, this time a little forcefully, something that no guard would do since it would get their head cut off if they acted like that. Who are you? She asked, now a little desperation slipping out. We are no one, said one of the guards, his voice creepily emotionless and not an ounce of worry in it. As if trying to take the Princess of Dorne away was nothing special. This caused her to panic even more as she looked at their faces and saw that both of these men were people that she had seen close to her father countless times. Suddenly one of the men pulled out a knife and sneakily pointed it at her midsection. If you try and scream, your guts will splatter on the ground. He said, his voice making it not at all sound like a threat, but simply as if he was stating a fact. As they got further and further away from the main places on the castle, no guard seemed to approach them, and the ones who did only nodded while going back to distract the other guards. Who sent you guys? She asked, please, at least tell me this much. One of the guards, the one without the emotionless voice, looked at her with a pitying look. Sorry Princess Ariane, but your father can't handle a princess who continues to act like a cheap, well, you know. As a princess, you can't just go around and try to get guys who would take your chastity. Sadly for you, no one would be willing to go against Prince Doran, and you must be killed. Oi, don't say any more, intervened the man with the cold voice, you want to get yourself killed or something. Davos. Staying in a cell wasn't an unfamiliar thing to the now Sir Davos. But he didn't like the cells, at least normally he wouldn't like such things. But in Dorne, he was staying in a luxury room, with a giant bed and fine silk all around. If it wasn't for the guards outside who wouldn't let him go out, he would consider this a vacation. But even then, there was this thing that kept bothering him. Why would Lord Oliver put him in this situation? He should have known how Doran would react, and whatever was in that letter made the man nervous. Something that made a Lord Paramount nervous? Davos wondered what that could be. After all, it had something to do with the kind? Possibly? Maybe treason? Well, the Onion Knight was glad that he wasn't in charge of thinking about things like this because he would die of old age before he figured out the Highborn's schemes. He planned to live a life of leisure for a couple of years after this if Lord Oliver allowed it, of course. Because Davos knew that the young man had the same problems as his father, Arthur, had at his time. Gold can only buy a man's loyalty for a time, but the same gold can be used to buy it for another. It wasn't like Oliver had no men other than Davos whom he could trust. There were others, but they could all be counted in one hand. After all, who would spend almost a full month on the sea and be filled with boredom but not read the letter that Davos had been entrusted with? Yet, Davos had the trust of both lords he had served, and he knew that. For a former smuggler, that was a lot of trust for someone to put on him. But he always did every day he was given to his full capabilities. Slam, the door was forcefully opened, and this caused Davos to immediately get out of bed and pick up a fruit knife that he had close by. Not like something like that could stop a sword, but any weapon was better than none. Two guards wearing Dornish outfits looked at Davos and nodded, pointing outside where the guards who were guarding him previously were laying in a pool of blood. What's going on here? Asked Davos, worrying that the guards were about to kill him. But unexpectedly one of the men looked at him with a horrified look. We don't know, man. Princess Ariana is missing and Prince Doran has the whole of Sunspear in lockdown. Our orders were to take you to a safe house. Davos was confused. Who is giving the orders? Lord Arthur? I think, we have no idea, but someone is using his network. We all have a job to do, and this guy, he pointed at the guard next to him. I just learned that he was a spy too. We have no idea who is who. Whatever, just take me out of here before Prince Doran decides that my head shouldn't be attached to my neck. Davos shivered as he felt that something was going on here. Amongst the chaos, Davos was able to slip through till he was in a safe house in the outskirts of the city of Sunspear. Then the men turned to leave, when suddenly two normally clothed men came and stabbed them in the back. After that, one of the men who killed the guards also killed the other man. The only person left then nodded at Davos as if it meant something. The job is done now. Davos was more confused than ever, and the man gave him a razor. Shave your head and beard. After saying that, the man ran off. But right as he walked outside, a crossbow bolt hit him in the neck and he fell down, dead. Chapter 60, The Godfather. Arthur. Planning an elaborate murder plot with several parties in which most of them were killed after a specific amount of time took one thing. That thing was competent men that didn't jump the gun. Got the idea from Godfather movie, had to pay over 1,000 gold dragons to get this. One can buy a small castle with that kind of money, most people won't ever see that amount of money. But it had to be done sadly, even if it meant losing so many spies in Dorne. Now the only spy I have in the place was one of the cooks. But it is good enough, the numbers of my spy network had been growing too large anyway. Just the upkeep cost me around 50,000 gold dragons a year. That was a lot since most of my spies are orphans that I raised and the orphanages around cost half of the spy network upkeep. I would dare say that my spy network was better than Varys. Because my spies even go to Asai and even beyond. All the way to Yeti. Of course, unlike Varys' spies who are just mute children with no tongues, mine are very different. My spies have grown men amongst them, with their men, and could kill anyone with the right order made. The cook in Dorne could also end Doran or the whole Martell family in one fell swoop in a feast. Of course, that would be only theoretically because the man wouldn't be able to buy that much poison to kill all of them. Plus depends if one Martell ate faster and got poisoned so the others would notice and not eat after that. Also, Doran wouldn't be a fool. If I was him, I would have a food tester for every meal. Most carefully thought out plans fail on such things. I too have had my failures in such ways. Both in this world and the past one. But the thing about mistakes is that only a fool won't learn from them. I would like to think of myself as not a fool. My first life ended because of arrogance, my second did because I trusted my family, sons that had been raised and cared for by me, only to stab me in the back. No longer will I make the same mistakes. Also, I still have a tester and on the surface have no enemies. After all, it doesn't hurt to be careful. This ritual of the resurrection of mine is like a snake eating its tail, and unless necessary I won't use it. Because who knows when I might die and the eagle that carries my soul to the next body could be shot and that would be it. The end of my great journey, dying by some half-wit's arrows that might have not even been intended for me. The rough wooden desk bristles against my fingers as I think of the future to come. Arrogance, what had killed me the first time won't kill me ever again. Doran Martell just lost his daughter, he won't be able to find Arianne Martell. She will be shipped to me and we will wed, of course, it will all be her will. Davos will meet the guards intending to kill her and he will protect Arianne and he will go to a specific ship where I have some trusted men and women manning it. From now on, she will no longer trust her father. After all, he did intend to kill her. Of course that what she will be made to believe, and after putting a child in her, it won't matter any longer what she believes. Doran's hopes for Viserys will be ruined because Arianne will already be wedded and bedded by then. Still though, the Targaryens are some very nice pawns to have. If they weren't littered with Varys spies around them, then they would be in my hands. Though since Dany hasn't hatched her dragons, both she and her mad brother are useless. After she hatched her dragons, that would be a good time to approach my dear mother of dragons. Should I kill Arianne at that time? No, it should be sooner and at an inconvenient moment to make it seem like I had nothing to profit from her death. My children with Arianne would then hold the right to rule Dorne after Doran, a quickie rebellion should settle that. Hopefully, Oberyn won't ride against his nephews. Though his sellsword company in Essos failed due to money mismanagement, the Red Viper could be a very dangerous opponent. But even with all this planning, everything would fail if Daenerys fell off the horse and broke her neck. Sure, she had a great destiny ahead of her, but destiny couldn't heal a broken neck. Also we'll have to make sure that Dany's child must never be born no matter what, the stallion that will mount the world. I will stab her right in the baby with my own hands if I have to. That child must never be born. I sighed, a little tired. What am I talking about? I can't go there and do the deed myself. The only thing that would happen if I went there would be me getting myself killed. The best I can do is hope for the best and my presence doesn't suddenly mess up everything. Everyone that I was plotting against was real people with real feelings and thoughts, predicting how each of them would act was impossible. It's inevitable that eventually, this whole thing could fall on its head, and only adaptable people thrive. That was true for each world. It would be considered cruel of me to do something like this. Killing my wives and taking over the bodies of my children, but no one will ever know of this. I will rewrite history to my liking. In the end, I will get what has been my dream ever since coming here. The 7 kingdoms. I don't care about any of them. But my longest desire was to one day be able to watch TV and eat popcorn. Order online and play an RPG game all night long. Oh how I miss those feelings, having to wake up in the middle of the night to piss in a bucket gets old real fast. I could build some plumbing in this place. London has the best plumbing in Westeros. Though no modern plumbing since I have no idea how that worked, though the general idea of letting gravity do its work was a good thing to build the city on a slight hill. I worked in an engineering firm so some knowledge about sewers was held in my head even though it hasn't been used for decades. Normally everything would be okay, but modern sewers have a problem and that's how accessible they could be. Both as a sneaky exit from the city or an invasion. Knock knock. A soft knock landed on my door. Lord, Sir Will has come with a letter for you from the Golden Company. I sighed at that, hoping that Connington hasn't started getting stupid enough to send me letters. Let him in. The man came in, and he was wearing some knight's armor which seemed to be well kept. His stature was big and his eyes were sharp like a sword. Immediately I could sense the intent behind those eyes and instinctively grabbed for a Valyrian steel dagger hidden under my cloak. But since I was sitting, Will couldn't see my actions. "Welcome to London, Sir Will, how may I help you?" The man's eyes narrowed, he opened his mouth, and seemed like he was about to say something. But he then closed it back up and sighed. "My lord, I have heard of your bravery and Valyrian ancestry even from Essos.